and international racing superstars have gathered to compete in one of the most unique and demanding challenges in all of motorsports, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Though the calendar may still say winter, it's time for the 2012 racing season to begin.
Daytona. For years, it's where auto racing adventurers have come in search of glory. A place where mortals and machines have forged their legends. From the hard-packed sands to a super speedway, as wide and as smooth as the beach, Daytona has been synonymous with speed for nearly a century. Since 1962, racing legends from around the world have come here to compete in a grueling 24-hour marathon, going flat out on both the high-speed stock car banking and the challenging infield road course. From day to night to sunrise and another day. Non-stop, regardless of the conditions. Merciless on man and machine. Triumphs. Heartbreaks. Each year brings new memories. Drivers will need to be on the limit, lap after lap, for 24 hours. Make one mistake, deviate 1 inch. Blink, and the results could be disastrous. Those who've chosen this journey know it is long and unforgiving. When their minds are numb and their bodies are spent, who will muster the will to win one of the great races in all of motorsport? The 50th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is next on Speed.
They have come from 32 states and 28 countries around the world. Race and championship-winning drivers from sports cars, stock cars, Indy cars, and even Formula One. Their resumes include all of the world's great motorsports events, and for the next 24 hours plus, their goal is to add victory at the World Center of Racing in this milestone 50th anniversary edition of the Rolex 24. Hello and welcome everyone, live to Daytona International Speedway. I'm Bob Varsha, and this is a very big event for all of us here at Speed. 3 years after opening the Daytona International Speedway with the first Daytona 500, Bill France Sr. decided his new racetrack needed an event with more international prestige. He came up with the Daytona Continental, a 3-hour event for sports cars that included a driver lineup from across the world. All the great stars were there. 50 years on, we have another great lineup of international driving champions to compete in the Golden Anniversary edition of the race. Now, sports car racing is very different from stock car racing. It's a 24-hour marathon, 3 to 5 drivers per car. And every driver has but one goal, and that is to win the race. And you will see every hour of the race on our Speed platforms. We'll be with you from now until 11 o'clock Eastern Time tonight. We'll be streaming live at speed.com with announcers through the night, and then we'll rejoin you here on the network at 9 a.m. Eastern Time Sunday to take you through to the finish and meet the winners. Now, covering the pit lane during the next 24 hours are Brian Till, Chris Neville, Jamie Howe, Justin Bell, and Greg Kramer. Joining me in a moment here in our pre-race show will be Daytona veteran drivers David Hobbs and Tommy Kendall. And up top to call the start of the race, our regular Speed Grand Am announce team of Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, and Dorsey Schrader. Now, you can join the conversation throughout our coverage of this 50th anniversary Rolex 24. Use Twitter, use Facebook. Check out all of the wealth of content at speed.com. And if you were on speed.com last night, you learned from Marshall Pruitt that we had a spectacular late entry. Marco Andretti will bring his iconic family name to this 50th Rolex 24. Right now, let's go up to the top of the grandstand and get the thoughts of our commentary team, Lee, Calvin, and Dorsey. Guys, this is going to be an incredible event.
Bob, it certainly will be. Not only is this significant because it's the 50th anniversary running, but history has taught us, Cal, hasn't it, that words like impossible, unusual, uncharacteristic just aren't applicable in this one because anything can happen. And that's just one of the elements that makes this race so desirable to win.
Absolutely, mate. And as a road course driver coming to Daytona for the very first time, you drive through the tunnel down there, you see the infield, you see the massive banking. It takes your breath away. It's simply mind-blowing. And when you race here, if you have a great day and you visit those hallowed grounds of Victory Lane, it is a very special moment in your career. And Dorsey, this is the 50th. This is a big one. To do it this weekend would be very cool indeed.
It would. You know, the 50th, though, is not as important to me as the names of the drivers, the names of the teams, and the amount of cars that you would have to beat to win the 50th Rolex.
So there you go. It's the big race here at the big track, and you've got the big names. That's right, the drivers. Let's start with the headline acts.
Pros like Scott Pruitt. Not only did he win a record 4th Rolex Series title last year with co-driver Memo Rojas, but Pruitt was also victorious in last year's Rolex 24. And if he does it again, he'll tie endurance racing legend Hurley Haywood for most overall wins of this great event with 5.
Dario Franchitti leads the IndyCar contingent racing here today. He's their 4-time and defending series champion, as well as a 2-time Indy 500 winner. Franchitti won this race in 2008.
Heading up the international sports car contingent, Alan McNish, a 2-time winner of the 24-hour Le Mans. Always aggressive and exciting, McNish returns to the Rolex 24 looking for his first overall victory.
And then there are the Pro-Am drivers, the guys who don't race full-time to earn a living, like Hollywood superstar Patrick Dempsey, who's competed full-time in Grand Am for the last 4 years as both an owner and a driver. And at last year's Rolex 24, he led a career-high 28 laps and finished a team-best 3rd in GT.
And this year we have some interesting rookies, not only new to this race, but to this style of racing, like AC/DC lead singer and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member Brian Johnson.
Extreme sports legend and 4-time North American Rally champion Travis Pastrana will be co-driving a Ferrari alongside 2-time Daytona 500 winner and NASCAR on Fox's own Michael Waltrip.
Now, unlike in February's Daytona 500, here today there are 2 classes of cars on this 3.5-mile road course at the very same time. Daytona prototypes and GT cars. Across the 2 classes, 8 different manufacturers represented. Here's a breakdown of the classes.
Daytona prototypes are exotic mid-engine machines that are purpose-built for competition. Since 2003, they've been a series premier class. This year sees the introduction of the 3rd generation prototype chassis. And the main battle today will be between the brand new Corvette versus the Riley, winners of the last 7 races here at Daytona. All of the chassis in today's race are powered by Chevrolet, Ford, or BMW 5-liter V8 engines.
Grand Touring or GT, these are primarily production-based cars built for the street and modified for the racetrack. New to Grand Am this year are Audi and Ferrari with their R8s and 458s. They'll do battle with Porsche GT3s, Mazda RX-8s, which have dominated this race for the last 10 years. Now this year field includes Chevy Camaros and Corvettes, BMW M3s, as well as a Ford Mustang and a Dodge Viper.
And they all fit snugly with Grand Am's mandate of being safe, cost-effective, and creating competitive racing.
All right, thanks very much. I finally found my colleagues TK and Habbo in the crowd. Now all I have to do is pry them away from those smartphones. Coming up, my Formula One colleague David Hobbs will be on the race call today, but he also competed in the first ever sports car race here at Daytona 50 years ago. He'll join us to talk about the differences from then to now. David didn't win that race, but the man who did, All-American racing legend Dan Gurney, will recall his dramatic victory.
The grandeur of Daytona at that time was a huge, wonderful thing.
NASCAR has the king, Richard Petty, but sports car racing has its own legend, Hurley Haywood. He'll tell us why he's come out of retirement to race in his 40th Rolex 24 and find out why the 5-time overall winner may be the greatest of all time. Later on, we'll see a race that could also be the greatest of all time, and our Grand Am experts Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, and Dorsey Schrader will break down this incredible field of drivers and cars. And we'll also find out what extreme sports pioneer Travis Pastrana and NASCAR fixture Michael Waltrip think about driving around Daytona in a Ferrari as we count down to the green flag live here on Speed. The year was 1962. John F. Kennedy was president, and Johnny Carson was beginning his 30-year stint on The Tonight Show. American racing star Dan Gurney was among a stellar field for the first Daytona Continental 3-hour, and he knew it was a big moment.
Well, of course, being the first, why everybody was wondering how it's going to unfold, and it was the grandeur of Daytona at that time was. It was a thrill to go there, and it had almost every aspect of it was an unknown. Big Bill France had big ideas, and with about 2.5 minutes to go, my engine broke, so I coasted up to the finish line. And I'm thinking, my pit signal said that I had a 2-minute lead, and looked up at the flag man, and he pulled out his flag and started waving, and I pushed in the clutch. I was already headed downhill a little bit and just rolled across the finish line, ended up winning the race.
That he did, and down among this enormous mass of humanity, getting an up-close and personal look at the 59 cars about to embark on one of the greatest odysseys in motorsports. Welcome back. I'm Bob Varsha with David Hobbs. We know Dan Gurney and wife Evie, by the way, are watching from home in California, hoping son Alex can claim his first Rolex 24 victory in the 99 Red Dragon from Gainesco Racing. David, easy to say, we've come a long way from 62.
Well, of course, if he does win this year, it'll be 50 years to the day after his father won it. Well, I can tell you what, as Dan Gurney said, the grandeur of this place, and of course Calvin Fish alluded to it, when you come through these doors, especially when I was a 21-year-old kid who had been racing at places like Mallory Park and Stetson, it was very different even 50 years ago, and of course it was a stellar field too. Big Bill France wanted to internationalize the Daytona International Speedway, and he got off to a great start with that race. People like Sterling Moss, Jimmy Clark, Innes Island from England, the Rodriguez brothers, Joe Weatherly, Fireball Roberts from NASCAR, and of course David Hobbs. Well, of course I didn't win that race, but it was a very, very, very good event, and of course it was terrific for Dan Gurney, who went on to be a Formula One driver, and of course Jimmy Clark went on to be 2-time world champion and Indy 500 winner. So it was a very auspicious start, and I never thought that 50 years later, I just would never have dreamt that I would still be here on the grid at Daytona.
No question, the old event has changed, but it's still as intense as ever with a great lineup of drivers, and the big names are not just limited to the drivers. Some of the world's most iconic marques have battled for a half-century here at Daytona, none greater than Porsche. In 1968, Porsche won the Rolex 24 overall for the first time and would go on to become the winningest manufacturer in race history. In 1973, Peter Gregg and Hurley Haywood co-drove their Brumos Porsche 911 Carrera RSR to a victory nearly as significant, because Haywood has gone on to become the winningest driver in Rolex 24 history with 5 overall victories: 1973, 75, 77, 79, and 91. And Brumos is the most successful team in this race with 5 wins as well. Brian Till is with Hurley Haywood.
Well, as you said, Bob, in 1973, Brumos Racing and Hurley Haywood won their first Rolex 24. Last year, Brumos Racing won the GT Championship with management skills from Hurley Haywood. Hurley, this time, your 40th start in this great event. Was it the 50th anniversary that drew you out of retirement?
You betcha. I mean, you know, when I get in the car at 9 o'clock tonight, that's going to mark my 40th time in this race, and that's, to me, that's really special, considering that this is the 50th anniversary of this race. So I am excited. We've got a great driving crew. The crew has done a great job, so we're ready for the challenge.
Ready for the challenge. A lot of history has passed since then. When they won their first Rolex 24 in 73, gasoline was 36 cents a gallon. Richard Nixon was president. Joy to the World was the #1 song. But perhaps the most important note on that, the most recent history is the most important. The last time Brumos Racing started from the pole, they won in 2009. Andrew Davis has put the famous 59 on the GT pole today.
Thank you, Brian. 24 hours from now, Hurley Haywood may share his Rolex 24 overall win record with Scott Pruitt. The 51-year-old Californian has won the race overall 4 times, in 1994, 2007, 2008, and 2011, to go along with 5 class victories. Chris Neville is standing by with a driver who can equal history by this time tomorrow.
Well, Scott Pruitt is making his 22nd start for the always strong Ganassi organization. In the last 5 years, this team has completed every lap at the race, finishing first or second. Scott, if you get the overall win today, that'll be your 5th. It'll tie you with legend Hurley Haywood. What would that mean?
It would be incredible. I mean, you know, all the effort that goes into this race from the whole Telmex BMW team, all the Ganassi guys getting together, I had my family at home. We need to approach it the same way we have the last 5 years. Yes, it's the 50th, and that's big. Yes, it could be my 5th, and that's big. But we can't lose sight of what's got us here. You know, we've been set to a strategy over the last 5 years. It's paid off real well. We just want to keep doing what we've done in the last 5, and hopefully by, 6 hours ago, we're in a fight.
Well, Scott Pruitt is the defending champion, and he has his drivers from last year, Joey Hand, Graham Rahal, and Memo Rojas. Bob?
All right, thanks, Chris. Now, David, both Scott and Hurley have extraordinary records here. 4 overalls for Scott, 5 for Hurley. Scott has more class wins. Hurley has more victories in the summertime 250-miler here at Daytona. Who's better?
Well, of course, Hurley, don't forget, has also won Le Mans twice, the 24-hour at Le Mans, and the Sebring 12-hour. So it's a bit of a toss-up there, but no doubt about it, Scott Pruitt at 51 is an incredibly awesome driver.
And Scott is back with his Ganassi teammates. They've won 5 series championships and 4 Rolex 24-hour races. Despite a brand new, relatively untested car and a blown engine in practice, every driver in this pit lane knows that the Ganassi team is one to be reckoned with.
Oh, for sure. Ganassi is always the team to beat.
You cannot count the Ganassi team out.
Ganassi is always the cat in tall grass.
They set the bar really high.
They're always fast.
They're the team, the pinnacle.
They're consistent.
You know, they don't only win here, they win everywhere they go.
We're going to fight with them, for sure.
We beat them, and so obviously they're not unbeatable. And we won 2 years in a row.
When you win, you know you're winning against really good, competent teams. Not just Ganassi, but you have Gainsco and SunTrust as well.
11 years removed from the top step of the podium at Daytona, Corvette is back with a new entry in the Daytona prototype ranks. Remember, new car blues. The vets are fast, but can they last? You want a race of champions? That's the Rolex 24 at Daytona. We'll talk to one of the real superstars, Alan McNish, about the dangers involved in this type of racing. And later, our own Tommy Kendall, who won here with the late Paul Newman, will talk to Hollywood heartthrob Patrick Dempsey live about why he risks his acting career to go racing. All that and more next here on Speed.
The center of my world.
Greatest racing experience of my life.
That's an honor to be racing here at this course.
If you say Daytona, I say 24. The magical place.
It's a big deal.
It's the highlight and the kickoff to the start of the year.
Used to be the watch, so I was always proud about that.
Everybody is racing this race for a Rolex.
A watch.
6 of them.
The watch.
It's obviously the banking.
You say, oh,
heartbreak. When I think of Daytona, this is history.
Everybody who's anybody has raced here. A family.
So much family history. Dreams coming through. A race that every driver has to drive. It's Super Bowl for us.
It's like the Vatican, mate. It's the center of the universe.
Welcome back live to Daytona, where the minutes are ticking away to the start of the 50th anniversary Rolex 24, now just under 37 minutes away. Here's a look at some of the crossover stars in this year's Rolex from NASCAR. Ganassi teammates Juan Pablo Montoya and Jamie McMurray, Max Pappas, AJ Allmendinger, and two-time Daytona 500 winner Michael Waltrip in a Ferrari. From the IndyCar ranks, Graham Rahal returns to the defending champion car from Ganassi Racing. Dario Franchitti joins fellow Indy 500 champ Scott Dixon to race together in a prototype. Ryan Hunter-Reay, Ryan Briscoe, and Paul Tracy all in well-sorted cars. And, of course, the late arrival of Marco Andretti. And from international road racing, Alan McNish leads a group of winning drivers with a long history of success at Le Mans in both prototype and GT machinery, including Emanuele Pirro of Italy, who returns to Daytona for the first time since 1981 when he competed as a teenager in his first endurance race. In qualifying, we got a shock. The new Corvette Daytona prototypes were quick all weekend, but in the end, former race winner Ryan Dial shocked everyone by putting his car, his Ford-powered Riley, despite a blown engine in practice, on pole for this 50th Rolex 24. Now let's go to Brian Till.
Well, four-time IndyCar champion, reigning IndyCar champion Dario Franchitti shares the 02 Ganassi entry with a star-studded lineup. Juan Pablo Montoya, Scott Dixon, and Jamie McMurray. A lot of talent in that car, Dario. Some people would say maybe a little bit of ego as well. How do you take 4 drivers that are used to having their own car, share it, and do what you need to do to win?
Well, Brian, we've done it before. We've done it. We've all driven in fact, last year was exactly the same lineup, so we all know what's required of us.
we're all just a piece in the big team here. You know, it's great we've got the Target and Telmex guys on board. I think we know our job, so hopefully we don't screw it up behind the wheel, and the guys know what to do in the pit. So we'll find out in somewhere north of 25 hours exactly how well we've done it.
Well, as Dario said, they've done it before. It'll be interesting, though. They're not in it for championship points. They're in it for one reason, and that's to win it. Chris Neville?
Well, Brian, teams will be making anywhere between 25 and 30 pit stops during this race, and in many cases, they're going to be doing the driver change, and that can present a challenge for the number 60 Mike Shank Racing team because of the size difference between A.J. Allmendinger and Justin Wilson. A.J., is that height difference a challenge?
We just got to get Too Tall Jones out of the car nice. Once I get in, it's okay. So, you know, I think probably at the 3 in the morning change, he'll come out in probably the fetal position because his legs can't move and his body can't move. So we just got to throw him out. I'll get in, but it'll be good. This Michael Shank car is really fast as always, and 24 hours of good luck, and at the end of it, we should have a Rolex on the end of our wrist.
Well, the last 2 months have been good for AJ as he's now a driver for Roger Penske's Sprint Cup team. Could his good fortune continue with a win at the Rolex 24? Lee?
And Chris, as you know, AJ is in one of those four new Riley Daytona prototypes for 2012, the car maker that has won the last 7 Rolex 24s. And the big arm wrestle today will be between the Riley and the new Corvette, an American icon that has memorable history here at Daytona.
In 2001, who can forget the images of the late Dale Earnhardt? In his only Rolex 24-hour appearance, co-driving a Corvette C5R with son Dale Jr., Kelly Collins and Andy Pilgrim to a second-place finish in class and 4th overall. The winner that day was the Sister Machine, driven by Ron Fellows, Chris Neifel, Frank Freon, and Johnny O'Connell.
With the 50th Rolex 24 on the horizon and new bodywork rules for the 3rd generation of Daytona prototypes going into effect this year, Chevrolet, eager to get back to victory lane with their iconic brand, commissioned constructor Pratt & Miller to build a brand new Corvette DP. After months of hard work, it was unveiled to the public amidst much fanfare only a little more than 2 months ago.
And there are 5 of those beautiful new Corvettes. 1 for Bob Stalling's 99 team, 2 for Action Express, 1 for Spirit of Daytona, and 1 for Wayne Taylor's SunTrust Racing, where Jamie Howe is right now.
Well, young Ricky Taylor is coming off the best season of his career with 3 wins and 6 consecutive pole positions. But this year, as you said, Lee, SunTrust Racing is kicking things off with a brand new car. Ricky, we know that this number 10 Corvette DP is quick, but there are a lot of unknowns in this race. How do you prepare for those unknowns?
I mean, that's going to be the question today. I think, you know, there's 46 GT cars out there. There's a big range of drivers. And, you know, we got our beautiful new SunTrust Corvette here. So, you know, we've qualified up front and, you know, we try to stay out of trouble. But, you know, it's all about getting to those last 3 hours so we can race to the end.
Well, Ricky's definitely going to have a lot of time behind the wheel because he only has 2 co-drivers in Ryan Briscoe and Max Angelelli. But Brian Till, Ricky is not the only driver with a family history here at Daytona.
No, the Gurney name has deep history here at Daytona. Alex Gurney also driving one of those Corvettes that you mentioned earlier. And Alex, for you, we talk about the family history. If you could do what Graham Rahal did, and that's win 30 years after his father did, David Donahue won 40 years after his dad did. I know winning this race is special in general, but if you could do it on the 50th anniversary from your father's win, how special would that be?
Well, I think, yeah, Gurney winning the first one and a Gurney winning the 50th, that sounds like a perfect plan to me. We're really excited about it. You know, we love our new Corvette and just can't wait to get it started and get settled in, get ready for the long slog.
Well, let's see what they can come away with at the end of 24 hours. Gainesco Racing, John Fogerty, Alex Gurney, they're looking to shake Lady Luck, who's not been nice to them here, and come home with their first victory at the Rolex 24.
Coming up, more of the cars and stars of the Rolex 24. We'll look back at the Silver Anniversary Edition in 1987 with 3-time winner Derek Bell. The GT race this weekend could be the battle of the century. Big name manufacturers, great drivers, including Hollywood heartthrob Patrick Dempsey, extreme sports legend Travis Pastrana, and 2-time Daytona 500 winner Michael Waltrip. They know the mystique of Daytona.
What a perfect event for it to be my first.
It's remarkable. It's a special experience.
I feel like I'm so small, you know, 50 years.
Special, isn't it? You know, that something's lasted this long.
I'm always reminded about the history of the race. We have Hurley telling us all about it.
I've been at 40 of those 50 races. I picture my dad rolling across the line.
And it's a celebration about the history, but it's also a celebration about what's there today.
There will never be another 50. To win the 50th, especially, would be pretty amazing. A chance to write your name in the history book.
On hand And this weekend, for the golden anniversary celebration of the Rolex 24, 46 former winners of the overall. And with them, the winning cars down through the years, put on display along the sands of Daytona Beach and driven inland to Daytona International Speedway last night for a gala celebration. Among them, the Lotus 19B that Dan Gurney drove to victory in the original 3-hour Daytona Continental, and the number 14 Lowenbrau Porsche 962 that won the race in back-to-back years in a team led by the late great Al Holder. And welcome back to Daytona, where we may be running the 50th edition of the Rolex 24, but it's the number 25 that's relevant to the Bell family. Three-time overall winner Derek Bell, and our in-race reporter in a Ferrari for this speed broadcast, Justin Bell. Justin, how's Dad doing?
Well, he's looking remarkable, because 25 years ago, he'd have been the one standing here sweating in a race suit. Dad, 25 years since you won here. I bet you can't even believe that.
I didn't think it was until you just told me, but it was a long time. But, you know, I spent a long time trying to win it as well, from 1971 to 1987, and then we had 3 quick wins the next 4 years, so it was well worth the wait.
And so what was it like, that race? I mean, obviously the race has evolved, the track is pretty much the same. What was that year like here?
Well, you know, we had the chicane, so the track was very much the same. It was always very, very hard. You know, I mean, just so physical the whole time. 3 drivers, very, very physical. It was always hot. You know, it's like it is today, and inside the cockpit it's 150 degrees, so you sweated a lot. But it was great, and, you know, to win here is spectacular. It was the beginning of a year, and it was always the beginning of your new experience with a new team, so that made it rather special.
And do you think the demands then were any different from now, or is it just the same? You want to win?
The demands are just the same. Nobody knows any different, except for if I did it, I'd know the difference. But I mean, the guys out there, it's that experience that they're going through today is their experience.
Yeah, well, he's a guy that certainly knows. And Bob, just so you know, this is actually a Porsche. We should go to an auto show sometime together. Here we are. So it's the Porsche number 4. Hope we'll do well with. Lee?
Well, Justin, it's great to see you and your dad here, but for you, you know, you focus on your media work full-time these days. Great to see you in a driver's suit, and we're going to have you as our in-race reporter throughout today's race, so we are really looking forward to that. And guys, talking about this GT class that Justin's competing in, 45 cars. It's an incredible entry. Some are calling it a one-day unofficial world championship for GT competitors, that's for sure. And we've got 2 additional manufacturers this year boosting the profile of this class. There are 2 Audi R8 Grand Ams, and they qualified 14th and 21st in class. Meanwhile, there are 5 Ferrari 458s, and in testing, they were impressive. They were the quickest. In qualifying, second was the best, with Jeff Siegel in the 69. However, the majority of the teams in GT, such as Magnus Racing, run the bulletproof Porsche GT3.
Brumos, led by Hurley Haywood, which won the Rolex GT Championship last year with Americans Lee Keen and Andrew Davis, is on the pole. Kevin Buckler's very successful TRG organisation has ended 5 GT3s. They're the defending champions of this event. They've won the Rolex 24 a total of 4 times, including overall in 2003. Another favourite might be Mazda, in particular the Speed Source number 70 RX-8, with owner-driver Sylvain Tremblay and Californian Jonathan Bomarito leading the way. The team has won the last 2 even-numbered years. Can it be victorious in 2012?
The Camaros are sure to be strong, led by Stevenson Racing's Robin Liddell and Auto House Motorsports' 20-year-old budding superstar Jordan Taylor, as will be the 2 Turner Motorsports BMW M3s with Bill Auberlen and Boris Zed, and a host of factory drivers coming over from Germany.
And that is just a sample of this amazing class that the competitors are calling a one-day unofficial GT World Championship. And we are very pleased and proud to say that these 2 guys, Speed's Grand Am experts, Calvin Fish and Dorsey Schrader, were victorious here at the Rolex 24 in a GT class. I'm sure you're impressed by this field.
Unbelievable, Lee. For Andrew Davis, who sits on the pole for this race here, he needs to frame that qualifying sheet, because I tell you what, the field here is stunning. I mean, from all over the world. I mean, every different GT series is represented here this weekend. The field is just simply unbelievable.
Dors?
Well, I'll tell you, that one of my fondest memories of this race was actually with Calvin. I was in the lower bunk at about 2 in the morning. Calvin came in, got in the upper bunk, and about 15 minutes later, I heard a big scream, and I saw his nose come flying by, and he hit the deck, and he popped up, and he was all full of blood. Tell him about that one.
Yeah, a little dehydrated. The nose always hits first, unfortunately.
But you did go to victory lane, which is the good news, Bob.
All right, thanks very much, guys. And Justin, yes, I know you're in a Porsche for this race, but dude, you own so many cars. Come on. Joining me now is my old friend and colleague Tommy Kendall, sports car Trans Am champion, and a part of a very special lineup here in 1995, Tommy, with late actor Paul Newman, and you guys won the class. Pretty special.
I actually haven't been here since 1995. This time I was strapped in that number 70 Mustang, and one of the more magical weeks of my life. I'm sure Paul is watching down smiling at this field that's assembled. And the lasting memory was at the very end, we had the race pretty in hand, and Paul didn't want to get in the car and take the spotlight at the end. And Jack Roush says, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. 70 years old, you're driving that car across the line. Really, really special race.
Yeah, it was. He was a very special guy, but not the first actor to come here to the Rolex 24. Brian Johnson told me this weekend, rock stars want to be racing drivers drivers want to be rock stars. And I think we can throw actors into that group as well. Think of all the actors who have driven here. Guys like Steve McQueen and Gene Hackman. And the guy we're going to talk to shortly, he is the proprietor at Dempsey Racing, Patrick Dempsey, back for his 5th year of Grand Am racing. Patrick, thanks for joining us. I know it was an emotional finish for you guys last year, making the podium in GT. What are your memories of last year here at Daytona?
It was a remarkable experience from the start of the race all the way through. That weekend was quite remarkable, flying in from Salt Lake, from Sundance, and then getting in the car and having such a phenomenal run. My second stint in the car, I took the lead and we held it into the morning, and as the hours go by, the emotion and the weight of what's happening sort of weighs on you, and it's very challenging to keep yourself in check. And then at the end, you finally can release the emotion, and it's been such a lifelong dream for all of us to get to that point at this race. It's something that, you know, you'll never forget, and to this day I find it very emotional to think about, and to be a part of this great event, and to be a part of the history, and to be on the podium for the first time for me was just overwhelming emotionally. I'm so happy and so proud of the team. It is a team effort, and Mazda's support for years, and Visit Florida, Specialized Bicycles, all these guys that have made it possible for us to do that. It was just a release of emotion.
Now, Patrick, Tommy Kendall here. Congratulations on that podium last year. You know, last time I drove here was with Paul Newman when he won at age 70. I knew how special it was to him. Seems like everyone in America dreams of being an actor or a television star. You've given notice that you'll only come back to Grey's Anatomy if they make room for your racing. I get it, but explain to people why this has such a hold on you.
Oh, I just think when you're in the car, I mean, it's such a challenge emotionally and physically. And when you sort of go out there and you bring your best that you can possibly do, we're in such a deep field of great drivers. If you can get close to them, certainly I feel like I've done everything I can. There's something so exhilarating about it. Satisfaction is there by just, you know, concentrating on one turn at a time and getting through that. And you see where you are at the end of it. And when you slowly get that lap time down in a field that is world class, there's nothing more satisfying. The proof is right there. And I think it's not so much that. It's not the satisfaction you have. It's fun to entertain people, certainly. It's allowed me to do this. It gives me the platform to do this. But something that personal, it's spiritual. There's something quite remarkable about being in the paddock around the drivers, running around at night. It's just a unique experience. And there's a fellowship in that as a driver you understand that just is nothing compares, quite honestly.
Well, it's only 2 steps higher on the podium than the one you stood on last year, Patrick. Good luck to you, Joe Foster, and the rest of your teams in getting to the top.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank Visit Florida for giving us this opportunity, and everybody. We're big fans, so I can't wait to get the race started.
Neither can we. That's Patrick Dempsey. Now let's go to Jamie Howe.
There's a huge contingent of GT cars here, 46 to be exact, but 5 of those are coming out from one stable, and that's the stable of TRG Racing. Kevin Buckler, what goes into preparing for a race of this magnitude?
It's nuts. We've been at it since probably the end of October, early November. We've been down here and tested twice. 5 cars, 23 drivers. There's about 125 crew here today. You know, you can go on, 10 motorhomes, 30 golf carts, but it's just crazy. The guys have done a great job. The other night I was at the shop, we were working late. Everybody was on it. We were humming and singing, eating pizzas. It was like, I'm going 11 o'clock, I got a good crew, and we're really proud of that. Great group of drivers this year, and great group of drivers in all the cars. I mean, this is a strong lineup, so, you know, we're going to try to play it safe and smart and try to bring it home, but it's going to be one heck of a race.
You've had so much success here, including the GT win last year. What do you do to repeat this year?
Repeat. I mean, really, honestly, because if you can do it again, you know, we did it in 09. We almost had it in 2010, won it last year. This is, like I said, it's a strong field, and I think, you know, coming here with a multi-car effort like this and having all the cars prepared well is a nice testament to the team. But coming up here and having all the cars sort of hit their goals, too. Some of the guys are here to have a great run. Some of the guys are here to go for the throat. So trying to win this thing is what we're after.
All right, thanks, Kevin. I know you have your team to get down to. Go to get down there. Bob Varsha?
All right, thanks very much, Jamie. On the other side of the break, we're going to take you inside several different race transporters to listen in on teams laying out their strategies for the upcoming Rolex 24. And Michael Waltrip has been to victory lane here in both the Daytona 500 and the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Can he do it again in his Ferrari with help from Travis Pastrana and the rest of the Michael Waltrip Racing team? Find out soon.
Every stint has to be a great stint. And I'm telling you, all of you are going to have a bad stint. You have to shake off that stint and get back on the horse and do the right job. So the whole thing is to have the discipline. We talked about this yesterday. The mental discipline to not waver from our plan. All of us.
Most stuff that you've done the last couple of years, you break your out. Well, we get to fix it, and we will fix it. We just got to get it back. You know, we got to get it back here. The most important time we lose is them waiting in time to put it on a rollback. If it's something you can drive back and you knock the splitter off of it, I don't care. Knock the splitter off of it. Just get it back.
If you look at this, it's not a Rolex, and I want to leave here with one or more Rolexes. So that's my only demand.
Team principals laying down the law to their respective drivers, and a couple of F-18s from Naval Air Station Oceania of Virginia Beach with the flyover for today's Rolex 24 at Daytona. And if you're looking for an example of the widespread appeal of sports cars, there's no better case than this guy. Today's Rolex 24 may be one of the more sedate things Travis Pastrana has ever done.
It's like my second ever pro race, first ever 125, and I'm just so excited.
Danger, 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 danger. Who be that damn perfect stranger? Danger, danger.
Are you alive? I'm fine. How are you? Holy that was a hell of a ride.
Bringing it down, weeks and weeks and days and days and rain and rain and rain and pain and pain. Coming to win the game. Coming to game. I'm coming to win the shame. Do it.
We got this. Come on.
Well, when you think of an extreme athlete, you think of Travis Pastrana. He's a two-time rallycross champion. He's jumped a car onto a moving barge, and I've even seen him jump out of an airplane without a parachute. But this is a first for you, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Is it a challenge?
Oh, super awesome challenge, man. Just really excited to be here. The AF Waltrip team, they called up and said, hey, have you ever raced a Ferrari? I'm like, no. Have you ever done a 24-hour race? I'm like, no. So you want to? I'm like, I'm in, dude.
Well, Travis is going to do 7 NASCAR nationwide races this year for Michael Waltrip Racing, his teammate this weekend, and fans know you for your Daytona 500 wins, your win last year in the Camping World Truck Series, but they might not know this is your 4th 24-hour race in 12 months. What do you think? Is this different than running on the big oval?
When I'm at Daytona, I'm so comfortable and so confident, but they make you take a left-hand turn right at the end of pit road, and I'm lost for a little bit, but man, how cool is it to say I'm driving the Napa Auto Parts, Aaron Seldenley's ownership Ferrari. I mean, you don't get to say that every day, and to have a teammate like Travis, Rob Kaufman, my other partner, it's just it's a wonderful experience. 50th anniversary, man. It's I'm standing my Mr. What do they call him? Mr. Dreamy?
McDreamy.
McDreamy. I got my picture made with him, daughter. I'll send it to you.
Now, you've spent your career in stock cars. What's it like in this Ferrari 458?
It's amazing. It stops like you wouldn't believe. I was explaining to Rob, I said it stops like, and it handles perfect, but when you get on the straightaway, it doesn't have a whole lot of power. Our Cup cars are just ate up with motor. This thing's got less power than it does, but man, it's a joy to drive. And you know what I love most is sharing the car. You know, you want to drive it and you want to get out of it and hand it over in great shape to the next guy. And the responsibility you feel between your teammates, I love the camaraderie and I love the experience. It's fun.
You're not starting today. When are we going to see behind the wheel?
It's Rui, because he's a professional, and then the not-so-professional start. Rob's next, then me, then Travis. So I'll be third. Somewhere around 6:30 or so, I'll take the wheel over, and can't wait. It's a blast. I'm just so blessed. I mean, I can't believe I'm driving a Ferrari at Daytona. If you had told me to dream that, I wouldn't have been smart enough to even dream it.
Well, good luck today. They're starting 25th.
Thanks, Chris. And the name Waltrip is synonymous with Daytona International Speedway, and Fox Sports is proud to bring you exclusive coverage of the Great American Race, the 54th running of the Daytona 500 on February 26th, and you'll see that man there, Michael Waltrip, in the Hollywood Hotel. Yep, Michael will be part of the Fox Sports team. You'll see defending series champ Tony Stewart and rookie Danica Patrick. So exciting times coming up. That's the 500 in February. This is the Rolex 24 now. And we're almost there.
We are almost there. And for the drivers now, they can get into that cockpit. They're isolated from all of the distractions. I mean, a lot of these teams have been preparing for 3 months. We were testing back here in early November. So now it's go time. It's race time. You've got to think about all of that preparation, all of the memories that you have here. Put them to one side. You've got a new race to run, Dorsey. You've got to be very clean. You've got to be very specific about what your goals and objectives are, not only on this first lap, but through these first few hours of this race.
And I have never felt so much energy as I've felt at this place so far this week. I mean, the crowd is huge here, but it's just not the crowd that we're talking about. This race is going to be epic. I mean, it's going to be a fantastic race today.
The motor racing legend and Rolex 24 at Daytona winner AJ Foyt is the Grand Marshal for this event. However, we have to give a shout out to AJ. He's not here due to some health issues. We wish you well, AJ, and we wish that you were here. However, saying those very famous words in motorsport, we have a motor racing and Formula One legend. Sir Jackie Stewart is here as an ambassador for Rolex, and he will say those very important words. So AJ, hi, get well. For now, it's time to send it down on pit road and join a motor racing legend for some very important words.
Race fans, it is time. Please welcome back three-time world champion Sir Jackie Stewart with those most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
In the history of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, there has never been a build-up like this. The countdown is almost over. The anticipation is about to morph into being in the moment. So let's remind ourselves what this is all about.
Daytona. For years, it's where auto racing adventurers have come in search of glory. A place where mortals and machines have forged their legends. Those who've chosen this journey know it is long and unforgiving. When their minds are numb and their bodies are spent, who will muster the will to win one of the great races in all of motorsport? The 50th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is next on Speed.
The 59 cars and the respective drivers are about to write their special, their golden chapter in the history of this motor racing series. Just look at Daytona International Speedway, what a picture it is. The entire infield sold out. And at a sports car race here, that's the first time I've ever seen that.
Oh, it's been very special indeed. I mean, the crowds, even at the test here last month, were unbelievable. The build-up this week has been fantastic, and the crowds have just been pouring in over the last 3 days.
Dors, this event is so special to you. The hair's starting to rise a little bit.
Been that way all week, Nate, I swear. My adrenaline has been pumped up. I'm ready for this race. I cannot wait to get this started.
Well, we should make mention that this is not just the 50th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. It's not just round one of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series for 2012. It's something special as well. It's round one of the newly formed North American Endurance Championship. This is round one. It's only a 3-round championship. Round two will be at the famed Salem 6 Hours of the Glen, and the third will be at the inaugural 3-hour race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And we will talk about that right throughout our live hours of coverage. For now, Dorsey, if you would, take us through the BMW track map.
Well, Daytona International Speedway, known for its high banks, 3.56 miles in length. Those bankings are 31 degrees, 18 in the tri-oval, and down to 7 on the back stretch. Now, the big number comes right here at start-finish. A solid 190 miles an hour as they break into turn one. That corner right there is 63 miles an hour. Now, the International Horseshoe, I describe it as the slipperiest piece of pavement on the entire earth. Turn 3, that is, you can see spins there all night long. The fast king through the infield, 137. When you slam back up that banking and start down the back straightaway toward that bus stop, as we call it, that's 185 mile per hour braking zone. Right here you see it, and we're going to see action there all night long.
So there you have it. Motor racing, as we say, and particularly endurance sports car racing, is a real team effort, but it is a family affair as well. Let's have a look at some family members racing here. And there are a couple of families with 3 members. You've got the Nonamakers down there with Joe, Will, and Wayne. What about at the top? John and Jarrett. John's teenage son, Jarrett, were entered first of all. And as Bob mentioned, just last night we found out that Marco Andretti, IndyCar star Marco Andretti, is a late entry. Dario and his brother Marino are there. The Frizzell boys in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fantastic. We also talked about the history of this race. We talked about David Donahue winning here, Graham Rahal last year. Can Alex Gurney follow the trend of his dad this year, 50 years on?
We are just minutes away from the green flag flying. Let's check in one last time with Jamie Howe.
Well, we all know that teams and drivers prepare months to compete in this race, but as you said, Marco Andretti just found out last night that he will be racing here this weekend. He's never raced at Daytona. He's never competed in Grand Am, and above all, he has never driven this race car. Now, the team has driver data as well as in-car video for him to watch when he arrives at the track, but that is not until 8 o'clock tonight, so it's certainly something to keep an eye on. It's going to be a day for a first for him, but Chris Neville, Scott Pruitt is going for a record.
Yeah, and Scott Pruitt's got those 9 class victories. He's looking for that 5th overall win that is going to tie him with Hurley Haywood. And I asked him before he put his helmet on today, what is the key? And he said, it's patience. After all my success here, it's still very difficult these first 22 hours to be patient, to say, you know what, we got to run hard, but we can't make mistakes. Those last 2 hours, the gloves come off. Brian?
Well, Chris, you know, a lot of people say rock and roll when the green flag drops, but nobody out here knows rock and roll better than this man, Brian Johnson, lead singer for AC/DC. And Brian, I know you're used to performing on all kinds of stages. This one's a little bit different. How's the opening act been?
It's been absolutely fantastic. I don't think I've ever felt the emotion, anything like it. It's like the start of a rock and roll gig. It's wonderful. And also, I think Dorsey looks fabulous in his jacket.
There you go, Dorsey. Brian Johnson likes your jacket. We're in for one heck of a race, guys.
And that man there, considering what he has experienced in his life, is just beside himself for the Rolex 24, his very first. We have got a wide variety of onboard cameras to show you. The defending champions, the 01 BMW Riley for Chip Ganassi Racing with Felix Sabates. We've got a good spread across Daytona prototypes and GT cars. Second page to show you here, so much action.
Yeah, I mean, this GT field is just stunning, as we said before. We've got all kind of marks. We've got race drivers from all around the world, the best in the business. They want this 50th.
Continental Tire starting grid will roll across at the top of your screen. You can take a look for your favorite car or driver. But as that scrolls across, and we congratulate Ryan Dial and Starworks for grabbing the overall pole, we need to take you to the Continental Tire keys to the race. And we start with damage control. There are a couple of key factors here. Traffic is going to be the big one with 59 cars and 45 of those GT. It is going to be paramount that you be careful. Serviceability of the cars, got to be quick and easy.
It's going to be a very busy pit lane here over the next 24 hours. We've got 59 cars in this race, but 45 of those are GT machines. They're going to hit pit lane, particularly under caution at the same time. And also the fuel windows are a lot shorter this year. The frequency of stops will be quicker, Dorsey.
A lot of unknowns, guys. You know, brand new DP bodywork. A lot of brand new GT cars never run before. And we have a new yellow flag procedure. And we'll get into that as the race goes on.
Events that only occur once a year are always special, but the 50th anniversary, it's exceptional. Let's get this golden race running with a little bit of green. The sports car world is racing at Daytona for the 50th year. This one will be special. And Ryan Dial, the pole man, sees the green flag for the 50th Rolex 24 at Daytona.
Max the Axe there slammed the door on Scott Dixon there as they hustled down to turn one.
Well,
GT, Ryan, broken start here.
These guys, if they get as clean as prototype guys do.
Jeff Siegel in there really deep from the outside of the front row. Andrew Davis settling in from the pole. Looks like they're going to go side by side off of turn 2.
Keeping the classes separate, that's in the name of safety and to give everyone a clean opportunity for a safe start.
Oh, look at that, Scott Pruitt. Remember, they had an engine problem, didn't make qualifying. He's starting at the back. He nearly got body checked there by Tracy Crone coming out of the horseshoe.
One of the things you got to worry about starting in the back is working your way through that traffic that's not accustomed to being as quick as Scott Pruitt is, who would normally be at the front of this grid.
And in the testing here on last month, Scott Pruitt, right in this very area of the racetrack, went through some GT traffic, got it wrong, and damaged that race car heavily.
He thinks about an inside move on Tracy Crone and then thinks twice. No particular rush here. You've got time. Opening lap of this 24-hour, and Pruitt slices up the inside of Tracy Crone now. Moves by that Ford Lola.
Look at that beautiful new bodywork on the Riley. The cockpit area is about 10% smaller. It really streamlines the car, but look at that Lola come back. Tracy Crone, problem there for one of the Action Express cars.
It's the 5, I believe. It's the 5.
Remember, they've had engine problems all week long. Darren Law popped a motor on Thursday night practice. They put a new one in yesterday. It didn't run correctly. They changed it again. Still more drama for that team.
Yeah, it's been frustrating. And the defending GT champions, Andrew Davis, just like Ryan Dial in the Daytona prototypes, has got a flyer of a start. Our pole man, who just had everybody so pleased and proud for him, has taken off. And we've had it confirmed. It is the 5. Tell us more, Chris, the dramas.
I'm listening to Darren Law on the radio right now. He said fuel pressure seems to be fine, but he said the motor is not running well, so he's already brought it back to pit lane. They're going to take a look at it. Now, we've got a lot of hours in front of us, so if they can just try and get this thing back out on the racetrack, they can definitely make up some last loss. But they're going to shut the car off, take the rear deck off the car, and see what they're dealing with.
You can replace almost anything on that engine you want to. The one thing you cannot replace is the engine block. Short of that, go for it, boys.
Not the way Action Express wanted to start. Action Express is a Rolex 24 at Daytona winning team. Starworks would like to be. Starworks with Ryan Dial got its very first Daytona prototype class pole, first here at the Rolex 24, and Ryan Dial got his very first DP pole. The 29-year-old Scotsman who lives here in Florida is just loving this new Riley.
What a week for Peter Barron's team. This is the brand new Riley body car, okay, with a Ford Power. They didn't even complete building that car till last weekend. They rolled the car off the truck on Thursday morning. They had problems in the first practice. Had a short practice session after that. Then Ryan Dial and his team responded with the pole position. A brilliant performance.
Boy, nobody saw that coming. Everybody was looking for the SunTrust car more than likely to take that pole. Max Angelelli was very disappointed when Ryan Dial pulled that one out of the hat.
Yeah, we spoke to Max yesterday and he was still fuming almost 24 hours post-qualifying. He sits in second place, the Italian, ahead of Scott Dixon, who has Oz Negri looking at him in 4th place. Alex Gurney is 5th, and the 5 has been released.
Yeah, Darren Law just exiting pit lane right now, so he's going to go down one lap. The team changed the ECU in the car. They've been dealing with a high-speed miss since yesterday. They changed quite a few things on the car. They did not change the ECU, so this is the next step. I asked Elton Sawyer, what's the step after this? And he said, you know what? If it isn't this, we've got a bigger problem on our hands, and we're probably going to have to go back to the garage.
Of course, the ECU, the electronic control unit, is the brain or the computer. It runs everything on that car. So if one of those little segments isn't nice, they'll just replace the whole unit as one. We'll see if it will fix the car.
This is not the only time we're going to see scenes like this in GT. It is a packed field, a packed class. Whoa, look at that. The Momo, the NGT Porsche runs wide. Sean Edwards had to catch that.
He really did. It's very slippery. If you get in there, you think you can really take the long radius around that corner and carry a bit more speed. There's just not the grip there. And we see Jordan Taylor in the 88. He's going to be a real force this year with Paul Edwards for the championship. Narrowly missed it on last year. Then we see now one of those new Audi R8s. Stephen Kane behind the wheel of the Oryx machine.
And Bill Aublin in the 93 Turner Motorsport BMW. There's one of the new 458 Ferraris. It's the Ferrari 458 Italia Grand Am. It's made to Grand Am specifications, just like the Audi R8. And it's terrific to see a combination of 7 of those across the 2 marks in this field today.
Look at that GT field. Now imagine what's going to happen when the Daytona prototypes come up here to try to lap these guys. These are professional race car drivers in real factory race cars. They're not going to just move over for these Daytona prototypes. They're going to race hard. This is a war.
Another Action Express update with Chris.
Yeah, Lee, more bad news for the 5-car. Darren Law just radioed in that at 6,000 RPMs, that's when the car won't accelerate anymore. He gets that high RPM miss, so they did not fix it by changing that ECU. I just heard Elton Sawyer on the radio tell him, Darren, we need you to stay onto the racetrack. We're trying to come up with a plan right now. This race is all about taking a blow and recovering. This team is trying to figure out, how do you recover from this?
Well, it's going to be tough. And Dawes, I think what may have happened, they had a fire underneath the hood there the other night, and maybe something just got fried and they haven't got to the bottom of the problem.
And that electrical type of problem, Calvin, is the hardest thing to try to diagnose and or fix. They'll start throwing wiring looms and things like that at it. Not try to change one component, but massive components all at once to try to find this problem.
We were riding there with Rui Agua for a moment in that AF Corsa World Trip Ferrari. Off to a solid and clean start. Dion von Moltke right there in the 51 APR R8, just ahead of Rui Agua. And then you got Darrell O'Young in that Bullet Racing 22 Porsche. So many cars, so many drivers, and we have got so much to tell you over our continuous live coverage of the 50th running of the Rolex 24. We're up and running. Stay with us.
Monday night here on Speed, NASCAR Race Hub is can't miss. Defending Cup Series champ Tony Stewart sits down for an exclusive one-on-one to discuss his drive to repeat in 2012 and his expectations for one Danica Patrick, who joins his team. Don't miss NASCAR Race Hub Monday night, 6 Eastern, only on Speed. Back live at Daytona International Speedway, the 50th Rolex 24 at Daytona, now barely 8 minutes old. We've already seen one problem for the number 5 Action Express Corvette. Darren Law has an engine miss, and David Hobbs, this is exactly the kind of thing we were talking about coming in. The Corvettes are new, they're fast, but they could be fragile. We just don't know.
Well, today's age, most of these cars are so incredibly reliable, something that I could never quite come to grips with in my day. But of course, having done 29 of these 24-hour races and never won one once, I can fully relate how those 3 guys must be feeling just at the moment. Absolutely gut-wrenching. All those months of preparation, work, practice, qualifying, and then on the first lap, I tell you, Tommy, it's just...
You wonder how that can happen, but when Lee said anything can happen, anything can happen. And that's the kind of thing, when you have a misfire, they're really hard to diagnose. The other thing that's going on right here, in the early laps, is a little better to shake the nerves out a little before they get into lap traffic. But everybody's been preaching to each other and themselves patience. The nature of a race car driver is the opposite of that. And now that these cars have gotten reliable, they want to charge. And so it'll be interesting to see how many of those can really take that to heart.
Yes, patience is not the usual virtue you find in race drivers. There's the 01 car, still carving its way through the field. It's passed one car after another. And he's really got some good speed out of that car, which of course is what you expect from Scott Pruitt.
Whoops, a problem from one of the GT Porsches. That's the number 34. Quick off and on, down in turn 1. Tricky corner. I actually took a lap of this track in a Daytona prototype, chauffeured around by Bert Frizzell. The sheer brutality of these race cars is hard to convey in television pictures. Let's see what happened to Phil Fogg. Just overcooked.
Oh, just overdid it. It's such a fast approach. As Dorsey's still on the track map, these guys are doing, even the GT cars are doing nearly 187 miles an hour as they cross the stripe, and then they got to slow down to 63 miles an hour for turn 1. You've only got to leave it just a fraction of a second too long, and that's what happens.
You see the running order in the GT class across the top of your screen. Let's get back up top to the booth high above the grandstand for Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, and Dorsey Schrader.
Thanks, Bob. This is Ryan Dial, the overall race leader in Daytona Prototypes for Starworks. He has a 5.5-second lead over second place. However, second is no longer Max Angelelli. Oz Negri for Mike Shank Racing has now elevated that 60 car. Another new Ford-powered Riley up to that second spot. Angelelli is third, Dixon fourth, and Alex Gurney is in the top 5. Now we're encouraging you to send whatever Twitter messages you would like to at Speed, and of course we are going to be following those very closely, so keep it coming. Remember the hashtag as well, 50th Rolex 24.
See the 34 off right there again. I think probably what you've got is a flat spotted tire, possibly a puncture at this point, because he really locked that front end up when he got off down there in turn 1.
Mentioned that the SunTrust, the new SunTrust Corvette, has just dropped one position back to third. Let's check in with the SunTrust camp and find out.
Yeah, and obviously there is a long, long way to go here, Lee, but I know Max Angelelli was not happy with qualifying the other day, and dropping back this early on, he may not be pleased as well. Wayne Taylor, I know you were just talking to the boys there. What's going on with the 10 car right now? Is Max just settling in?
Yeah, nothing really going on, just driving around. I guess we can figure out now who was doing the sandbagging.
Now, one of the things that you told me, other than sandbagging early in the weekend, was don't call me on the radio and tell me you've been hit by somebody. What have you warned your guys about as far as the GT traffic and how many cars there are?
Well, it's difficult. You know, we've obviously talked to all 3 of them that there's no excuse to be hit in this race, you know, and there's a lot of road out there, and they just need to be really smart and understand that, you know, we can't win this race until 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Max Angelelli just settling in right now, and maybe something we haven't seen a lot from him, guys, is being patient.
And that's the smart way to play it. One of the few with just a 3-driver rotation. Angelelli, Ryan Briscoe, and Ricky Taylor. And Angelelli has a rear-view mirror full of Scott Dixon at the moment in the O2 Ganassi machine.
Yeah, he really does. And I think he's just being patient at this stage of the game. Wayne Taylor talked about sandbagging. I mean, I'll tell you what, Dorsey, through the test stage, no one really knew what was going on. And in both GT and DP, no one was really laying their cards on the table. And we said it wouldn't be until the green flag flew that would really know what everyone had underneath them.
Well, when you have a brand new race car, the worst thing you could do is come to the first test of the year and go out there and blow everybody's doors off, because you get to be a big fat pig before you get to the next race when you do that sort of thing. So everybody held back a little bit, I think. I believe we're going to have a very competitive race, though. And I don't know that anybody's sandbagging that much.
Take a look at car number 2 there, the last one in this line, the yellow, red, blue, and white Daytona prototype. It's what they call a Generation 2 Daytona prototype. DPs first came out in 03. There was an amendment in 02. That was Generation 2. And then now we're calling DP Gen 3 of this 2012, the 2011-2012 era. So that is the second Star Works entry. And Ryan Hunter-Reay, IndyCar star Ryan Hunter-Reay, is behind the wheel. That is the car that Marco Andretti will climb aboard. Originally, Tony Kanaan and EJ Vizo were meant to be in that car. There were some sponsorship dramas, and literally each time we came to the track, every day we came to the track, the driver lineup changed, right up to last night, where I'm sure Ryan Hunter-Reay got on the phone and said, Marco, come on, come and do this Rolex 24. I'm sure it's going to be some fun. So we have the full complement of Andretti Autosport IndyCar drivers here in this race.
Yeah, Michael Valiente has also joined the driver lineup here. He didn't come here to Daytona with a ride, and suddenly Peter Barron said, I'm looking for guys, and Michael was drafted in. He's a solid DP runner. He should have a full-time ride. It's really just the state of the game at the moment, and it'd be great to see Michael back here on a full-time basis.
You see the Daytona prototype cars now working through GT traffic. The GT cars have been told when they come on the banking to stay to the lower part of the racetrack, that they don't need that much room with the speed they run. What I just saw, however, was that all the Daytona prototypes were on the bottom and all the GTs were on the top.
See Gurney there really getting aggressive, looking down the inside of Dixon into the bus stop, and we previously seen Dixon getting past on the straightaway here around this banking. And one concern for that team is all of the new Generation 3 bodies have been given a specific rear wing angle, meaning they've got to run a certain amount of downforce. And Timmy said, we'd ideally like to be trimmed out more in terms of less drag, okay, less downforce, but faster down those straightaways. And he said, we're going to struggle a little bit because of that this weekend.
See the Red Dragon, the 99, Alex Gurney behind the wheel. Yes, these cars are pretty. Yes, they're interesting, but the drivers are the stars, and there has been a driver change in that 99. Alex Gurney, John Fogarty, they're the regulars. Normally we would see Jimmy Johnson, 5-time NASCAR Sprint Cup star, in that car. He is not here at the Rolex 24 this year as Alex goes by Max Angelelli. Instead, Mamo Gidley is the third driver in the Bob Stallings Gainsco 99.
Gurney looking really sharp here through traffic, and that comes down to how your car's really handling on this infield too. There's really very much a compromise. You know, if you got it good on the infield here, you're not necessarily going to have a speed around the banking. The 99, the little red Corvette of them now deemed this, the Red Dragon, is certainly looking really good in the early going.
We are going to leave Daytona International Speedway for just a moment. A quick break now. When we come back on the other side of this, we're going to delve deep into the GT field, which is still being led by class pole sitter Andrew Davis. He's got 3-time winner Andy Lally, though, chasing him down. Back at the 50th Rolex 24 at Daytona, time to talk GT. Great to have you with us live here on Speed. And talk about a famous number. We call it, as it's nicknamed, the famous 59, but there's a very good reason, because of the history and heritage of the Brumos Porsche. They spent their years in Daytona prototypes, but last year came back to the spiritual home of GT racing. And Andrew Davis and Lee Keane made Jackson, Florida celebrate by grabbing that GT title in its first year back in the class. It was a sensational way, and then to continue that momentum, Andrew Davis, as Calvin mentioned before, just stunned this unbelievable field of GT drivers to grab pole. And in a really heartwarming story, Andrew didn't even know where he was, and he said to the team on the radio, tell me where I am. And they said P1. He said, can you say that again? I thought you said P1. He said, that's right, you are. You're on pole.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and the cars look super strong. They've really had a great lead up and build up to this race. It's a brand new race car. Not that the 2012 Porsche is dramatically different, but it's a brand new chassis over last year's, which is probably going to be in a museum now, having won that championship. But Andy Lally has switched teams. He's gone from the TRG group. He's been with them for so many years and joined John Potter at Magnus Racing. They're going to be a force this year as he runs in second spot.
You know, watching right back there at the bus stop, these are really good drivers, and they were really proper on the lines through those. They weren't slamming through the curbs. They weren't getting off in the grass, which is actually underneath that is sand, making that all slippery. Later in this race, we won't see such tidy driving, I would think.
And we have almost, not all bar a couple off the top of my head, we have virtually every Porsche factory driver in this field. Marco Holzer is one of them in the Alex Job Racing WeatherTech Porsche there, running third at the moment. He's made up some good ground. He started sixth, sits third. We ride with Marco now.
Yeah, and I mean, Alex Job Racing, they have such great history in sports car. 39 wins over the years. They won here in 1999, the GT class. They've had a couple of GT wins at Le Mans, 3 ALMS championships, 7 times they've won at Sebring, the 12-hour. They know how to get the job done in one of these endurance events, Dorsey.
No question about that. I mean, Germany, all the German drivers are here for sure. They brought over all the top shoes to get the job done over here.
And Andy can see that. Andy Lally, that is, in the 44. He can see Holzer has closed down that gap, but Andy Lally's not a 3-time winner at the Rolex 24 at Daytona for no good reason. He knows when to push hard, when to be patient, when to be gentlemanly, and perhaps let someone by instead of you don't have to fight for the entire 24 hours. He will be mindful, though, of how far out in front Andrew Davis is. He has just bolted.
I was about to say, Andrew Davis came with his A game. Not only was it that pole, but I mean, if you watch him on the racetrack, he is really dominant right now. He's running faster lap times than almost anybody out there, and he's doing it very smoothly. You know, I can't say enough for Andrew. He topped that field of some of the best drivers you could get anywhere worldwide.
When we left here last year, I flew back to Atlanta, Georgia, sitting beside Andrew Davis, and I asked him about the whole story of driving for Brumos Racing. He used to work at the Porsche driving experience at Barber Motorsports Park with Hurley Haywood, who was the principal there. And he said, when I finally got the phone call and they said, do you want to come and represent Brumos Racing and partner Lee Keane and be a part of it with Hurley Haywood? He said, I thought it was one of my mates on the phone playing a joke on me. He said, this is unbelievable.
Whoa, see that 46 car there?
Man,
that was a big catch. Wow.
We saw
nice
that car.
job.
Yeah, we saw him loose before, I think.
That was a great catch there. Fantastic stuff. That's Ray Mason behind the wheel right now in that Corvette.
That was a whale of a save. That's really fast down there, too. Watch this, guys. A couple of our brand new Ferrari 458s trying to wreck each other.
This is the extreme speed car we're on board with. Oh, hitting Tony Vilander.
Yeah, Tony kind of pinched down there, but I mean, it's really not a place to really be looking down the inside at this stage of the game. You can see there, Johannes is already a bit sideways. He's trying to brake the car a little bit more heavily.
This is when the crew chief has got to get on the horn and say, all right, tell me about what that was about. You know, right here in the first half hour of a race, you're trying to crash us out already.
And we're hearing about, here's the catch there by Ray Mason. Woo.
Yeah, man.
A little bit of dirt track in there on asphalt, but anyway, good job there. But the Ferraris, we know they're fast. They've got great cornering speed. They finally let loose of the reins a little bit and showed their straightaway speed after the test where they really throttled things back. But we're hearing that those cars are pretty fragile. You start hitting those body panels, Dorsey, they're not really repairable very quickly.
Yeah, you don't want to make contact out here. These cars, as we said at the beginning of the show, are so reliable now. You can run them very, very hard. The thing that'll knock you out of being able to win this race is crash damage. And you just cannot afford to be belting into other cars like that.
Really pleased to say that Scott Sharp's ESM, Extreme Speed Motorsports Patron Ferrari team, will compete in the 3-round North American Endurance Championship this year as part of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, which is really exciting stuff. Good to have he and Ed Brown and Guy Cosmo and Johannes van Overbeek here.
Yeah, and we're also hearing they may take place in some other events. Homestead is a possibility with Ed and Guy. Detroit maybe with Ed and Scott. Certainly Indy and Glenn are on the slate.
One of the earlier incidents we saw involved one of the 2 Action Express Corvettes. Chris Neville has an update on that 5. What's going on, Chris?
Well, Darren Ross still dealing with an issue in that car. His times are not that bad. Oh, guys, and the SunTrust car going back to the garage right now, so we're going to have to check on the SunTrust car, see what is going on there. But Darren Ross still saying he has problems with this car. It is not pulling the way it should be. They've checked the fuel system, no problem with the fuel system, no problem with the shift cut. They think the issue might be in the master switch. and they're not going to do anything until we have a caution.
Wow, this is a big surprise. These were the pre-race favorites. They'd shown great speed in the test stand here. They looked very confident throughout the test days and this race week. Narrowly missed out on the pole, but remember, you can recover. There's a procedure now with the safety car periods, Dorsey, where it's a lot easier to get those laps back. Essentially, whenever there's a caution period, you can make one lap back as soon as the leaders pit. So they just got to be calm, identify the problem here, and be efficient with the fix.
Now, let me explain this to the viewers that might be new to road racing. Being back in the garage doesn't mean you're out of the race. He didn't pull out because his race is over. They went back there specifically to have something worked on where it takes more than just a couple of mechanics out on the pit wall. You can go back into the garage, fix whatever it is, and come right back out. That is not meaning that the car is done for the race.
On the left-hand side of the screen, you see driver Max Angelelli communicating with team manager Simon Hodgson. Brian, what do you see? What's going on?
Wayne Taylor listening because the conversation's happening on the radio, so I came down to check with Wayne. Right now listening to Simon and Max talk to each other. When I first got down here, he looked at me and said engine. And I know when I talked to Wayne earlier in the weekend, one of his concerns, I asked about the car, and he said he's a little bit concerned. Perhaps the engine was the most fragile part. Let's check in the garage with Chris.
Yeah, Brian, down here with co-driver Ricky Taylor. And Ricky, what did the team see on the data?
They just saw some funny things with fuel flow into the engine. So I'm sure we'll get it sorted out. You know, we got a good team. We made a big comeback last year, so no doubt in my mind we can come back from this.
You said something about one bank of the engine maybe not firing the way it should be?
It could be just an airflow issue or anything. So I mean, they'll diagnose it. They've narrowed it down already, so I'm sure we'll be good.
Let's remember, guys, this is also a Chevy motor from ECR, just like the 5 car.
Well, let's hope that there is not a link between those cars running that power plant, but this at just 25 minutes into the Rolex 24 at Daytona. This is not good news for Wayne Taylor's SunTrust Racing. It's not good news for Stephen Kane as he locked up there. There was no collision, though. He had made an enormous ground in that Audi R8 coming up through the field. What exactly went on?
Just gets wide there. The exit of the kink there. I'm not sure if he's trying to set up that car in front of him, but drops the right side. Ooh. Narrowly misses that Porsche. Good recovery.
That's an eye-opener.
Sometimes in endurance sports car racing, that's the kind of luck that you need. However, the day for Action Express and for SunTrust Racing has not started the way it should.
Back live at the 50th anniversary Rolex 24 at Daytona here on Speed with David Hobbs and Tommy Kendall in our infield studio. Up top, Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, and Dorsey Schrader in the pit lane. Brian Till, Chris Neville, and Jamie Howe. It's been an interesting race thus far. We are 30 minutes in. We're getting a lot of celebrity tweets. Jimmy Johnson of NASCAR Sprint Cup fame wishes all the drivers a safe and fast run, especially the Chevy drivers. And speak of the devil, here comes the number 10 SunTrust car from Wayne Taylor Racing. After a brief stay in the garage, there's Max the Axe Angelelli behind the controls. You heard Ricky Taylor tell our Chris Neville that they thought it could be any number of things. Apparently, they got to the issue fairly quickly, Tommy. Sorry, we're having a problem with Tommy's mic. They are back in. They are some laps down. And with that, we'll get back up to the top of the grandstand and rejoin Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, and Dorsey Schrader.
Thanks, Bob. Good sight seeing the SunTrust Corvette back out on track, and as it builds back up to speed, you certainly don't win for being...
Same deal. Pull in, engine off. Engine cover off.
Simon's calling him back. They're still not. He's either not feeling something or they're not seeing something on the telemetry with the engine goes right. You don't want to burn it down, Dorsey.
No, if you're losing fuel pressure on one bank, and that's what it sounded like they had, you stand the risk of burning a piston. You know, those cylinders that are not getting the fuel that the other side is are really running lean. They're getting very, very hot, and you're going to see that car come back to the garage.
You heard the voice of Simon Hodgson, the team manager.
Vibration on 5,500. 10-4, Max. We're just going to fix this issue, and then we can look at that.
Dorsey, what I hear Max saying on the radio right now is that he's got a vibration somewhere between 5,000 and 5,000 or 5,000 and 5,500 RPM. I talked to Wayne Taylor a minute ago, and he said it was running rich on one of the cylinders on one bank, much richer than someplace else. So they changed the ECU. That didn't do it, but they have the vibration now.
Now the vibration is a very serious problem, because with a vibration in the engine, that's an internal problem, and something in there is loosening up and about to fail. So they're going to really have to look at this very closely.
Notice if that vibration is at the same RPM in all the gears, or whether he's just hitting that at a certain speed. Remember, he drove around pretty slowly. It could be pick up on the tires. I mean, it's very easy to get a little bit confused here as to what the issues are.
One cylinder running rich is kind of strange too. That the ECU is supposed to take care of all those things, so we'll see what they come up with.
SunTrust boys go back to work far earlier than they had anticipated.
And the loss of power is even more now. 2 things.
Last weekend, this crew went through practicing, changing splitters, changing the rear clips on this car, all of the things that could go wrong. Simon Hodgson and the boys said, we have a fast car. Now we need to react if anything goes wrong. So hopefully some of those practices and procedures they can now use to getting this car fixed as quickly as possible.
Well, they can plug into the ECU and get a diagnostic as to what the readout is, what the engine cylinder, which one of those cylinders is the one that's malfunctioning. And they can address that one cylinder only. Fixing it, on the other hand, could be a different story.
Keeping up to the date with the picture, big picture-wise, Ryan Dial in the Starworks Ford Riley is 12 seconds out in front of Oz Negri in the Mike Shank Ford. Then Scott Dixon, Alex Gurney, and Ryan Hunter-Ray is in the top 5. In GT, it's the 59 of Andrew Davis, well in command over Andy Lally and Marco Holzer. Those positions unchanged. Martin Ragginger has made nice progress coming up from his starting position of 8th to 4th. Patrick Long in the Flying Lizard Porsche is 5th. Jeff Siegel, who started on the front row in the FXDD AIM Ferrari, has dropped back to 6th. Then Bill Aublin, who's moved up nicely in the 93 Turner Motorsport BMW, and then Bryce Miller in the Chopard Porsche is 1 position behind him.
Since we ran here last year, the fuel cells on both the GT cars and the DPs have been reduced. The GT cars have 17.5 gallons. The only change to that is the Mazda has 2 more gallons, the 19.5 with the rotary engine. So they're talking about a 43, 45-minute fuel window. Remember, we had pace laps to begin this race as well. So I'd say anytime about 40 minutes in, we may start to see some action on pit lane.
Saw those top 3 Porsches there, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the Fometics entry of young Austrian driver Martin Ragginger in car 17 for Burton Racing. There's Pat Long, and the 69 is Jeff Siegel. He and his championship-winning co-driver Emil Asentado switching from Speed Source in the Mazda RX-8 to this Ferrari 458 Italia in the off-season. And they're very excited about that. They got to test the car at Fiorano in Italy and in the off-season, and they're quite excited.
They are, and they've teamed up with AIM Autosports for so long. Daytona prototype entrants and winners. They won a couple of rounds back in 2008 with Mark Wilkins and Brian Frizzell, so they've won in that category, made the switch, and they were really cock-a-hoop to be the fastest Ferrari in qualifying here, with guys like Reese here and Tony Vilander, Jimmy Bruni behind the wheel. That was a real feather in not only that team's cap, but also Jeff behind the wheel.
And to address that point you made about the 17.5 gallons this year, that means that there will be many, many more pit stops than we've ever seen before in the 24. And I think as it goes throughout the night and these drivers are getting fatigued, the guys who really going to have to watch this year are the crewmen.
Yeah, and if you break down 24 hours with about a 45-minute run, it means if you go green, it's going to be a minimum of 28 stops. Talking about tire allocation, these GT teams only got 30 sets of tires for the whole week. Daytona Prototype's got 32. So you've got to pick and time your moments when you want to double stint these tires in terms of coming in for fuel and not changing the tires to really meet the allocation you have for the whole week.
Biggest story in Daytona Prototypes thus far early in this race involves Wayne Taylor's SunTrust Racing Corvette. Chris, what's the latest?
Well, Lee, this car's been here for about 5 minutes right now, and you can see we've got a Earnhardt Childress engineer over on the right side taking the valve covers off, taking quite a few mechanical pieces out of the engine bay, also looking at all the wiring. I asked Bill Riley, who's down here watching this, because he's also thinking about the 99 Gainsco car, which is one of his chassis, and he said he would change everything electrical right now. He would change the wiring harness, the ECU, throttle position sensor, anything with a wire or sensor. He said he'd change it now because you can hopefully make it up in the next 23 or so hours we have in front of us.
Well, they're looking not only at electrical issues. If they're pulling that valve cover, they're looking for a broken valve spring. That could be the vibration, and that would drop a valve if it was in that way for very long.
No surprise to see Porsches running strong in GT, and they come thick and fast. There are 23 of them in this 45 GT car field. Amazing strength in numbers, but will they prevail? We won't find out until tomorrow. Dial in command up front.
Coming up February 23rd here at Daytona International Speedway, NASCAR's biggest names battle on the high banks for prime position in the Daytona 500. Don't miss the Gatorade Duel at Daytona, live February 23rd, 2 p.m. Eastern, only on Speed. Today, however, it's the sports cars and the 50th anniversary Rolex 24 at Daytona. And this is the battle for the lead in GT. Andy Lally trying to chase down the class pole sitter, the 59 Brumos Porsche of Andrew Davis.
Well, he's done a pretty good job. He's chased him down, all right, because he's got to get by him. But as we've been saying, 24-hour race, he needs to take his time and be careful getting by him. Feel very sorry for Wayne Taylor and his team. They've had some good runs here, some good luck and wins. But today, the other side of the coin, Angelelli now down about 15 laps, so not a good day.
And obviously, Davis has fallen off the pace just a hair enough, because it's, you know, he's a bit of a traffic jam behind him. You see Lally showing his nose on the outside of turn one. He's probably not going to make a real aggressive bid on the outside there, but he's really just trying to worry Andrew Davis and let him know that the big dogs have got him.
That's Marco Holzer in the third place Porsche. 1 little, 2 little, 3 little Porsches up onto the high banks at Daytona. How many times have we said that before? Andrew Davis up front in class, a great story. He has worked really hard for this opportunity. Didn't come from a lot of resources. Student at the University of Georgia in Athens when I first met him. But he did all the coaching work, did all the race instruction, made all the cold calls, looked for opportunities, test driving, even sweeping out the racing shop. He's got an opportunity here at Daytona, and he's making the most of it. Pole in class and leading here late in the first hour of 24 at Daytona International Speedway. Here's a close look at Andy Lally. Have a look up on the high side. Pull out of the draft. Well, looks like the class leader in GT is headed for the pit lane. And this is important information. Just 43 minutes into this race. We're going to get a fix on how far that car will go on fuel.
Now the first stops will come a little earlier because they have pace laps and so forth.
Brian Till is there.
We've already seen several GT cars on pit road. Now your leader is in, Andrew Davis. That spectacular job in qualifying. Remember, he and Lee Keene won the GT championship last year. They were consistent. They were fast. They won the championship in the final round at Mid-Ohio. Right now, Andrew Davis stayed in the car. Continental Tires, Sunoco fuel going on. And then Andrew Davis will be back out on track. Jamie.
Martin Raginger has brought the number 17 Burton Racing car to pit lane. Looks like they are going to take tires. Now, this is a change because the other teams that have come to pit lane this early have not taken tires. They've done fuel only, such as Flying Lizard. Flying Lizard's right behind them on pit lane. They're doing fuel only. Martin Raginger staying behind the wheel, Brian Till.
Daytona Prototypes coming to pit road as well right now. Down in the Michael Shank Racing camp, the 6-0 Osnegre behind the wheel stays there. This team had problems with their Ford power plant. Actually, in both cars, a mechanical issue. In this one, a small piece of debris blocking one of the oil lines. They got that sorted out. They feel like they should be good to go. Negre stays in the car, the first of the Daytona Prototypes that I've seen on pit road.
Here is the 40 Dempsey Racing Mazda. There is Patrick Dempsey behind the wheel. So the first round of stops underway, and it's going right on cue. People telling us anywhere between 42, 45 minutes on this initial run. And you will see a lot of double stinting. That's not the case here at Dempsey Racing, though.
No, I mean, some of the teams choose to just get all the drivers rotated through the car, get a feel for the racetrack, get them back in the groove. Jamie talked about some of the teams double stinting the tires, some not. I'm really proponent, Dorsey. You have to look at that tire wear after that first run. I mean, sometimes these conditions are different. Yes, you want to save your allocation of tires, but get a read on the tires. Make sure there's nothing going on, too much camber like we saw last year in some of the DP cars. Make a good read on the car early.
Biggest story in Daytona Prototypes, as we know, involves this car, Wayne Taylor's SunTrust Corvette. Wayne is standing by.
Yeah, the Corvette's still up in the air down here, and Wayne, engineers still working on the right side of that motor. Have they figured out what is wrong and what they can do to fix it?
They think they found something in the on the right-hand bank. Not sure whether they could fix it right now. They're obviously working at it. We've lost a lot of time here. Incredibly disappointing. I mean, we've not had an engine failure. I don't remember ever having one. So this is pretty bad.
Also saw the team change a gear stack here at the back end of the car. The transmission, a problem back there too?
No. We noticed a lot of cars were running on the rev limiter. Potentially there's a bit of a headwind, so we're just changing gears while we've got time.
Well, this team trying to figure out what's going on. Last year they went down 9 laps and got back on the lead lap. Brian?
Well, Chris, most of the Daytona prototypes are now on pit road. Your leader, Ryan Dial, was in. Continental Tire, Sunoco Fuel also. The 99 was in. 6, the 2, the 9 in, as well as one of the Ganassi entries. Everybody routine stops. Drivers have stayed in, and they're heading back out.
Yeah, it's the 02 car that was in for the Ganassi boys. Scott Pruitt now leads this event, having started at the back of the Daytona prototype field. So Tim Keen and the boys are stretching his fuel margin a little bit further. And this is where the calculations really start to play in. They'll start to get a read on tires, start to get a read on fuel mileage, under racing conditions. So hard during the race week, Dorsey, with the stop and start nature of a session, rotating the drivers in and out. You get yellow flags, red flags, and you get abbreviated runs with the car. Until you get that first full run, it's hard to tell what the car's going to give you.
And a lot of teams would like to get all of their drivers into the car for a stint before it gets into the night tonight, so they can get that rhythm of the car, they get the rhythm of the track. You can see right now the sun's starting to really come into the thing. Scott Pruitt brings a 0-1 onto pit lane. This is routine. Timmy Keen, very smart call there. Leave Scott out there and get the lead again.
Chris? Well, the defending champion bringing the car to pit lane. It looks like it's just going to be a maintenance stop here. So 4 Continental tires. They're going to put Sunoco fuel in the car. Scott has been saying that the car seems to be porpoising a bit in the high-speed sections of the racetrack. That's something we have heard since the test days with this new body, where our team's still trying to understand how airflow moves over the car, and saying that sometimes that front and back can rock back and forth. So it doesn't look like they're going to make any changes right now, but we might have to see that later tomorrow when they're looking for some more speed.
Yeah, we talk about those Daytona prototypes, only 32 sets of tires. What did Timmy Keen about? They said during the night we should be able to minimum double stint the tires, maybe triple stint. He said my key is, with about 6 hours to go, I need 8 to 10 sets of those Continental tires to take us to the finish.
This is the car and the driver up front that has led all the way. A car 8, Enzo Potolicchio, now behind the wheel after Ryan Dial just had a perfect opening stint for the Starworks Ford Riley. We will give you the revised running order when we come back on the other side of this break. You're watching Sports Cars live on Speed.
Back live at Daytona International Speedway, about 10 minutes away from the end of the first of 24 hours of the 50th anniversary Rolex 24 at Daytona. You're watching the pole-sitting Ford Riley, put there by Ryan Dial, now in the hands of his teammate Enzo Potolicchio of Caracas, Venezuela. 2 years ago, he was the champion in the Ferrari Challenge Series. Right now, he's got mirrors full of Alex Gurney in the bright red 99 Corvette Daytona prototype from Gainesco Racing. You see the shadows beginning to grow long. The sun will get low. It'll be in the driver's eyes when they come off the NASCAR 3 and 4 banking. Slower GT car ahead as the race leader tries to work his way through the bus stop chicane. Actually 4 corners, a left and right, followed by a right and left, and then up onto the banking. Slower cars are told to stay low to let the faster cars pass on the high side in the name of safety. Off the corner they come, and we go back up top the grandstand to Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, and Dorsey Schrader.
This is great stuff from Alex Gurney, putting the pressure on Potolicchio, and it gives you a great look at the 2 Generation 3 Daytona prototypes. Riley in front of a Corvette. there has been some worrying communication during the commercial break between team engineer for Bob Stallings Gainsco team Kyle Brannan and driver Alex Gurney, talking about warning lights, talking about resetting the fuel. There's been a number of communications back and forth, but so far so good, and the Red Dragon's flying.
It really is, and Enzo Pedalicchio is doing a great job here. Would you believe that this man has already had 36 hours of racing this month? They were down in Abu Dhabi and Dubai for a 24-hour race, a 12-hour event, which they finished third in. He, Alex Popov, and Ryan Dial, and I think he's doing a great job. Paul Sitter, Ryan Dial turned the wheel over to him. He's one of the best Pro-Am drivers in the business. He's really kind of a Pro-Am and a half, Dorsey. He really gets the job done.
We can add the pressure of Scott Dixon now, because he's caught up to the back end of Alex Gurney and putting that pressure on.
Chris, tell us more about the communication with the 99.
Yeah, you heard about that, seeing some type of warning light on the dash, possibly associated with shifting, and I asked team owner Bob Stallings about that, and he said what it was is when they do a full reset on the car when it comes in for fuel and tires, something in that full reset seemed to go wrong, so they're seeing a warning, but they think it's just an error in the system. The car is not being slowed down at all. It's not having an issue like we're seeing with the 5 or the 10 car, but they're just thinking that this is something they can address later on.
How about that? We've got a new race leader, Alex Gurney to the inside. Remember the historical note, his dad, Dan, won here in the inaugural race in 1962, and you can hear him cheering all the way from California right now.
Yeah, I think
Alex
it was go time, mate. I think he saw Scott Dixon coming up in his rearview mirror. Dixon there around the outside of that 46 car. Got to be careful, because that car's had a handful so far in this event, Dorsey, that red Corvette.
Yeah, that's for sure, but you're right. It was Scott Dixon that pushed the hand of Alex Gurney. With him behind you, you don't want to be there very long. He had to force that pass.
Gurney, Podlicchio, Dixon, Oz Negri, Scott Pruitt. How about the man who led all of his opening stint, Ryan Dial, standing by?
He led all of his opening lap, Lee, because he started from the pole, and Ryan, the Star Works team has been on fire. You won the last race of 2011. Start with a pole here, but it's been hard work for you guys.
It's been hard work for the guys back in the shop. My job's a little bit easier than theirs if you give me a good car. So, no, it's what an incredible way to start the season, and just massive amounts of changes went on the off-season. People thought we were crazy. We won the last race and made some big changes within the team, but we brought in Steve Chalice, a good friend and engineer of ours from a couple years ago, and we rolled off the truck, just unbelievable. The car right now, we're just trying to save equipment, but I think we got the legs for them today. We just got to make sure we have the reliability.
And Enzo, I saw you on the radio with him just a minute ago. What are you telling Enzo on the radio when he's out there? I know he's lost a couple of positions, but he seems to be holding his own.
Yeah, I mean, we got to look back at Enzo's now been in Grand Am for one full season. He's done 12 races, and this race last year they qualified a distant last place. And I think it's just a massive amount of credit to him and Alex from where they were 12 months ago to where they are now. I mean, the guy's battling right now with two of the best drivers in the country in sports car racing, so he's having fun. He doesn't need any help from me.
And they've got two of the best sports car drivers in the world yet to climb into the number 8.
Oz Negri's a pretty good sports car driver around the world as well, and he just showed Scott Dixon how to get it done. Look at that, the 60 Mike Shank Ford. That's a new Generation 3 Riley as well, right around the outside of the Indy 500 IndyCar champ, and moves up into 3rd place. We encourage you to keep tweeting us, and we've got a couple of interesting ones here from a name you might know. All Waltrip, otherwise known as DW, Darrell Waltrip. Look at that one. My beautiful wife Stevie just walked in and said you're going to keep watching this for the next 23 hours. DW, did you say yes? We hope so.
DW will be proud of if you do, mate. We had a great time down in Australia last year at Bathurst and Surfers, and hopefully we'll do it again, bud.
And Jeff Gordon, look at that, enjoying the first hour of Daytona and love seeing those awesome new Corvettes.
Chevrolet guy there, Jeff Gordon, likes the way these cars look. Of course, he's raced in these cars, and we hope to see him back.
Last time we saw Jeff here, he was driving for Wayne Taylor's SunTrust team, and he'll be feeling for those guys as they go to work on those engine issues. And Angelelli is now almost 20 laps down on the race-leading car. This one here, the Red Dragon.
The Rolex 24 at Daytona is brought to you by Continental Tire. Innovative technology, driving confidence. By Mazda. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. And by GoPro, the world's most versatile camera. Be a hero. GoPro. Beautiful day at Daytona International Speedway. Temperatures in the low 70s. Not a cloud in the sky, and that's the way it's supposed to be for the balance of this 50th anniversary edition of the Rolex 24 live on speed. There you see the time remaining in the race at the top of your screen, the running order in the overall and the Daytona prototype class, and you're watching cars 1 and 2 in a battle right now, nose to tail. Alex Gurney and Oz Negri. Let's go back up top to Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, and Dorsey Schrader.
Looking at two teams that are yet to say they have won the Rolex 24 at Daytona overall. Bob Stallings, team and car owner of this 99 Gainsco machine, would dearly love that. Mike Shank, owner and team principal of the 60, would dearly love it as well. And Oz Negri has not put a foot wrong in this opening hour of this motor race. Been very impressive, very smooth. They didn't have the qualifying speed that they would have liked, but at the moment, as you can see, after the first hour, that means 0.
He's easily been the most aggressive driver since the start, qualifying not as well as they wanted, but he moved to second right away, guys, and after that round of pit stops, you see him now pushing for the lead from Alex Gurney.
Yeah, and that's Oz's mantra, really. He's a pretty aggressive driver, of course, gives it 1,000,000% all of the time. Still one of the fastest drivers in this class of Daytona prototypes. Did see a little problem with the right side door in the early part of this race. Looked like that was coming loose a little bit. I'm sure the mechanics addressed that during that first round of pit stops, but Gurney just doing a really nice job here, being very careful through traffic. But I tell you what, today, those Fords have looked awfully strong with Brian Dial leading the way, and Oz looks like he's got a little bit more pep in his step than Gurney on the straightaways.
Let's get another update on the SunTrust Corvette. What is going on now? Max Angelelli is some 21 laps down, and as you can see, is now out of the car. Chris?
Yeah, Max Angelelli just finally got out of the car because the team has been trying to get the car started, and it won't start now. They initially thought it was something in the valve train. They've checked that. They didn't find anything there, but now they're thinking maybe something with the camshaft or maybe a chipped tooth on the timing wheel of the car. So Simon Hodgson telling me that they think it's in the top end of the motor, but they're going to keep digging deeper.
Oh, none of those things that you just mentioned, Chris, are good at all. I saw that they pulled all the rocker arms and the push rods out, and they looked at valve springs, so it didn't do that. If it is a chipped tooth on the timing gear, or if it's jump timing, they can repair it, no doubt about it, if it hasn't done any more damage, but that's not an easy fix at all.
People at home may wonder, when you're that many laps down, why bother? Just park it and wait for another day. Well, this is a season championship. I mean, you come here, all the preparation is to win the big one, the Rolex, the 24, the 50th, but they are in this for the championship. Fortunately, 15th place is the lowest you can finish on points anyway, and that's about where the Daytona prototype field is this weekend. But if they can get the car back out there, get maybe 15, 20 hours even on the car, and someone else has bigger problems, they'll score bigger points today, which is important.
Calvin, I know you've been in a situation, and so have I. The hardest thing in the world is once they get that car fixed, to go out there and stay focused for the rest of that 24-hour race, because you can't win anymore. The adrenaline's over, so you really feel the fatigue then.
You may have noticed we've got a new leader in GT. Marco Holzer for Alex Job's WeatherTech number 23 team leads the way over Andrew Davis here in the 59 Brumos Porsche. On that round of pit stops, Pat Long was able to move up in the 45 Flying Lizard Porsche up to third. So we've still got Porsche 1, 2, and 3. And then Chevrolet fans, we've got a Camaro there. Robin Liddell and Stevenson Motorsports, they were taken out of this one early last year with, I think from memory, either a fuel pickup problem or an electrical glitch. They did get going again in the race, but similar to the 10, they spent too much time early on in the race in the garage.
Yeah, it was an electronic issue, and Robin led here early last year. They didn't qualify very well this year, didn't qualify well last year. They show a lot of speed in the car. The car is really going to be a factor for the championship. They ran over 200 laps here 2 years ago before they had problems, so this is a very strong team. They've changed the teammates this year. You've got John Edwards now full-time with Robin Liddell. That is a potent lineup. This is going to be a definite factor for the championship.
For those of you out in California that may have enjoyed the 25 hours of Thunder Hill, this car here, the silver and red one for Flying Lizard Motorsports, Flying Lizard with Wright Motorsports, it's the car that won that event. I think not just this year, for the past 2 years. Robin Liddell is all over Pat Long. He's really giving him a hurry up.
We'll see what kind of straightaway speed the two of them make. Of course, the Camaro in the draft of the Porsche right now. The Porsche more slippery, no question. Look, Patrick trying to break the draft. He doesn't want to get passed down here into the tri-oval. He's up and down, back and forth. But that Camaro needs a little help. You can see how much wider that front end is than that Porsche. The Porsche is pretty slippery. It's got a good top end number.
Tucked in behind Robin Liddell, Martin Ragginger is the next car back, and then the 56 AF Waltrip Ferrari has come from 25th on the grid to 7th with Rui Agua doing a really good job. And you can see here the difference between Daytona prototypes and GT and how the DP boys have to be extra patient.
Well, they have a lot more grip, no doubt. They have more downforce, they have more tire, and much more acceleration. What you have to worry about is a corner like the one back there where you're really going slow and there is no downforce there, either car there.
Yeah, that's right. You're really relying on mechanical grip, as we call it then. The wings and the aerodynamics are really not playing a big part when you're in these 60-mile-an-hour hairpin turns on the infield. It's really down to the tire and the mechanical grip of the car. And then a GT and a DP is pretty equal.
Yeah. You look at the apex speed of those slower corners, and there's seeing some smoke off the back of this Daytona prototype coming at us.
I think that's the 50-plus Predator racing car, and that has been showing signs of smoke for a long time now, probably for 45 minutes.
They're all over 50, that's normal.
Except for Carlos De Caseta from Allegra Motorsports. He had to state that at the press conference back at the Raw before the 24. He said, I know that's the name of the team, but I am the only one who's not over 50.
That car's allowed to smoke, it's okay.
One story we haven't followed up on, and you saw the car there when we were talking about the difference between DP and GT, was the 5 Action Express car of Darren Law. He is only a lap down at the moment, so not too much harm done by those early woes.
Yeah, remember, they made that early pit stop to try and investigate the problem. This is for the lead. Here comes Oz. We're talking about that Ford Power. Got a great run. Gurney just lets him have it. These guys are going to be pretty patient at this stage. They don't want to be trading paint, dicing it up too much. So Oz takes his turn at the front.
I think Alex got held up a little bit coming up on the banking by the GT car, and Oz read it perfectly, backed away from it and got the run up the straightaway. Of course, Gurney, very, very educated, saw it happen and said, okay, no problem.
Oz Negri, John Pugh, they're the full-time drivers in this car that will compete in the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Championship. Guest drivers, Justin Wilson and AJ Armendinger make up the driver roster in that 60 car. And over the years, this is the 7th consecutive year that Mike Shank Racing has done the Rolex 24, with the best result being in their maiden year, where the 60 car finished runner-up. So that win has been quite elusive. They are hoping that this is their year.
Well, I can tell you, you know, it's way too early to talk about somebody winning this race, but if Michael Shank's guys could pull that off, there would be nobody in that whole garage area that wouldn't want that to happen.
Exactly. Well, we have told you in GT just how strong those Porsche GT3s look. Let's stay on that Porsche thread. Greg Creamer has more.
Well, thank you very much. I'm down here with Andre Oosthuizen, who's the Vice President of Marketing for Porsche Cars North America. And Porsche has a staggering record of achievement at this event, yet you keep coming back. Why is that? What's the hook?
Sorry.
What's the hook to keep coming back?
Well, first of all, you know, for Porsche, our heritage is centered in motorsport. Coming out here and proving our engineering excellence, the history and the heritage that we have, the passion for motorsport, there's no better way than to come and produce it here and show the results on the world stage. And this is all about endurance, it's about reliability, but it's about ultimately proving you're a cut above the rest.
You're also renowned for your support of customers, and obviously you've got a lot of them here. How important is this series? How important is your relationship with Grand Am to the future of Porsche Motorsport?
From the outset, it's important that what we race is what we sell. So we create and we use this as a platform to engage our customers. And quite a few of them in here today that come in for hospitality. At the same time, that loyal Porsche enthusiasts from the past, the Porsche Club, show their presence, and it's all in all an encompassing exercise to show that Porsche, the legacy, continues to live into the future.
And I think that record's pretty clear when you think about the numbers game, guys. There's almost half of this GT field, which is a superb field. Porsches, over 106 drivers here behind the wheels of these Porsches.
Great to get that update. And speaking of Porsche factory driver Pat Long is under increasing pressure from Robin Liddell in the Stevenson Camaro. But Robin is being smart and patient, not willing to take an unworthy risk at this very early stage. So up front, we've had Starworks lead the way. We've had the 01 Ganassi car lead the way on pit rotation. We've had the Gainsco 99 lead the way. And now Mike Shank Racing with Oz Negri is atop the leaders list. So pleased you could be with us to watch and enjoy this live coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and even one of our competitors in this race, the open wheel star Paul Tracy, tweeting, as you can read there, we're in the garage. Well, not any longer. That was a few minutes ago. The 77 Doran Dallara is back out on track, and the brothers Frizzell, Burton Bryan, along with Dr. Jim Lowe and Paul Tracy, PT, are the 4 drivers in that car.
Patrick Dempsey being passed by the 56 Ferrari, which is showing a lot of form right now. But earlier, just a couple of laps ago, here we see coming down into turn 1, Patrick gets it a little bit wrong, loops it around, not near the tyres, and just recovers nicely and continues. But I wonder if there's any damage to the tyres, Doris.
Well, here if he mismatches. Now just a little bit too much speed, I think, as he got to the apex and around he goes. I think he might have got away without hurting the tires with any luck at all.
Remember, this is the car that finished 3rd in GT last year and led a good portion of the race last year. So as we get up into our rhythm and the race gets into a rhythm, we just heard from a special guest from Porsche. We're going to have a revolving door of guests throughout our 15.5 hours of live coverage of the Rolex 24. It's our pleasure to welcome multi-time winner of the Rolex 24 and sports car racing legend Brian Redman to the speed booth. Brian, great to have you once again. It was only seems like yesterday we had you up here when you were the Grand Marshal. Really special, really significant week. What's it been like for you, and has it caused even more reflection?
Well, it's been really fantastic. I mean, the weather is superb. The Daytona facility improves every year after year. It's really wonderful, and the brilliant organization. I've got a minder called Frank, and Frank is with me every minute of every day with a golf cart, and I go and he tells me where I'm going, and it's really wonderful organization.
I feel the same way. I have to do that for Calvin Fish.
Yeah, well, that's no surprise.
Brian, we were talking to Chip Ganassi the other day, and he said that you went up to him and reminded him that was the first time that BMW have won since you did back in the 70s. So it seems like the BMW cars are still running strong. We see Scott Pruitt starting from the back up into 4th, the other Ganassi car 3rd. What does the Ganassi operation remind you of from your era in terms of their organization skills and their preparation for one of these big races?
Well, it's, you know, when you're with an operation like a Ganassi or like a Penske, you're with the best. And like being with, let's say, the BMW factory team or the Porsche factory team, these are the absolute best of the best, and they make very few mistakes. Everything that they've got, the car, the drivers, and the crew, and the engine builders are all the very best, and that's what it takes to win these races.
You've been an ambassador for road racing forever. You've been my hero forever. What about this crowd? I mean, this is like it was the old school. I mean, that crowd is fantastic down there. Have you been in the infield?
Yeah, have I been in the infield? If I hadn't got Frank with me, I'd have been lost and mobbed. It's a tremendous crowd. The infield is jam-packed tight. And there are shows. There's a BMW.
This is Maxime Soulet just running a little hot and wide down there on the outside of turn 1.
That was a good recovery to switch the other way, because they weren't going to be going left for very much longer.
Well, he figured it out at the last moment.
That was a good call.
That was a good call. Only option available, actually.
And that there is an example of why it was such a great move to continue to pave that runoff area outside turn 1 where it used to be grass.
Well, you could say that again. In my day, you hit the tyre barrier hard.
Yeah, that definitely would have been a crash without that pavement.
What is your thought on that, Shane? We're seeing that at a lot of racetracks now, Brian, with the gravel traps being taken away and a bit more asphalt. I mean, you thought about the gravel traps really, grabbing the race cars, but it does give you some recovery room.
Well, it does, and really the gravel traps, whilst at one time they were kind of okay, but there were a lot of incidents involving gravel traps, with cars turning over. And I actually saw a fatality at a vintage race at Summit Point in West Virginia, where the car lost its brakes, hit the gravel trap and bounced. And it bounced in the gravel and then bounced out of the gravel and over a 6-foot wall and landed upside down on the concrete.
Quick update in GT as we see the 59 machine there of Andrew Davis continues to run second, And Scott Dixon continues to reel in Alex Gurney in Daytona prototypes. But the 56 AF Corsa Wall Trip Ferrari has come in. Rui Aguirre went from 25th to 6th. It was an amazing stint. He has now just handed over to Rob Kaufman. So we'll see how that 56 car goes. Michael Waltrip told us earlier he would be next in the rotation, followed by Travis Pastrana. Have a look at the traffic. Stephen Kane getting swamped by a couple of Daytona prototypes.
And you can imagine that's just going to get worse as the night comes. These cars, the GT cars, are going to be racing amongst themselves, and these prototypes are going to be trying to find their way through. It's much harder to judge distance and so forth at night. And with those lights behind you glaring in your eyes, you're blinded.
Take a look at this. You got Stephen Kane in the Audi R8, Martin Ragginger down low. You have got up high in the 9, Joao Barbosa, and then down low in car number 6, you've got Michael McDowell.
The one you don't want to be is the Audi in the middle. I can tell you that right now.
He's been in the thick of the action. I mean, Stephen Kane driving this new Audi R8 Grand Am machine has been very fast through this infield section. Hasn't really shown the true top speed of some of the other GT cars so far, but a lot of people are talking about Audi really letting the cat out of the bag at this stage, but he's been pushing really hard in these early laps, Dorsey.
He has done that. You know, the complexity of this race has changed so much, Brian, from the older days with these cars being as reliable as they are. The drivers tell me it's just like a sprint race. Even though it's 24 hours, you really have to lay down qualifying laps to be competitive now.
Yes, that's true. I mean, but even in, let's say, 1970 with the 917 Porsches, they were reliable, but you had to treat them with a certain amount of respect. You know, you could use the brakes as hard as you liked. Be careful with the gear change, because it was a synchromesh gearbox and so easy to miss a gear. You know, but there is a big difference. In 1981, with Bobby Rahal, a young guy at that time, and Bob Gerritsen in a 935 Porsche, I qualified at 15th. And Bobby came up to me, got hold of me, he says, "Brian, let me drive it. I can qualify it higher than that." And I said, "Bobby, leave it." At 1 in the morning, Bobby comes in the trailer, and I said, "Where are we?" He said, "We're leading." And I said, "Bobby, I told you not to." And he says, "We haven't passed a single car. They've all broken down."
Yeah.
On board with Wolf Hensler, this is the defending GT Rolex 24 at Daytona winners and one of many Porsche factory drivers. Wolfie goes by and up the inside of the APR Audi, the second R8 Grand Am. And these cars just look fabulous.
But it is their debut, after all. They have not had any testing to do, and it's the first time out of the box. We expect great potential for that car. No question about it. It's a beautiful car.
Well, it's won over 100 races already worldwide, over a dozen championships, so it's certainly very proven. It's won a 24-hour race at the ring, won the Bathurst 12-hour race, so we know the car can do the job. We know about the Audi heritage in sports cars over the last decade or so, so we expect this car to be a factor, Dors.
And Emanuele Pirro, 5-time 24 Hours of Le Mans winner, is behind the wheel. He's also a Rolex 24 at Daytona winner, but he hasn't been here in over 30 years. And coming back to the World Center of Racing has made Emanuele very, very pleased.
Yeah, he certainly has so much passion for racing, and he's very enthusiastic. And Audi were keen. He's really not a full-time Audi driver anymore. He's still an ambassador for them, and they thought it'd be a great fit to have Emanuele join this team, really see what this new R8 is going to compete like in this Grand Am arena.
We have enjoyed hearing the voice and spending time with 3-time Rolex 24 at Daytona winner Brian Redman. Brian, great to see you, and enjoy this celebratory weekend.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and enjoy the 24 hours.
Easy on that gentleman turn. Brian Redman, there he goes. Thank you very much to a sports car racing legend. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. And speaking of quick, how about Oz Negri?
On purpose.
We're back, and nothing has changed up front. And that's good news if you're a Ford fan, if you're a Riley fan, if you're a Mike Shank and Oz Negri fan, because this 60 machine is flying. Oz has a 5.5-second lead over IndyCar star Scott Dixon. The two Ganassi cars are running second and third. Pruitt is in that third position. Ryan Hunter-Ray is fourth. Enzo Potolicchio is fifth in the pole-sitting car that led for the majority of those opening stages. Antonio Garcia for the Spirit of Daytona team is sixth. Michael McDowell is there behind him. Joao Barbosa. Memo Gidley has dropped to 9th in the 99. And then the 76 Chrome Ford of Nick Johnson is in the top 10.
Yeah, Osnegri really starting to find his groove. He's now running lap times on the clear laps. A 1:42.281 is his fastest. We saw that lap of a 1:41.9 by our pole sitter right in the early going there, Ryan Dial. So they're starting to find the pace. They're starting to make a few adjustments maybe on that last round of pit stops, just with tire pressures and stuff like that. Remember, this team were the first team to get their hands on this new Riley chassis, and they've had a little bit more time to develop it.
No, there's really no advantage to taking and making a really big, huge lead. A lap around here, a minute 45, say, okay? So if you get a 15-20 second lead, it really doesn't give you anything because there's going to be a caution in the next 24 hours. It takes it right back away from you. I think what you're seeing with Ozzo, not that he's pushing really, really hard right now, but he's very comfortable at the pace he's running. He's running really smooth laps, and he's out free of traffic where a lot of other cars are not.
The view from the man's car. Scott Pruitt looking ahead at Scott Dixon.
This is where they were with about an hour or so to go in last year's race. Running 1-2, and just a great strategy call by Tim Keen on the 01 machine. Pitted that car of Scott Pruitt, and then they only had a short fill to do on their final pit stop and claim victory once again. Scott Pruitt's 4th victory, and Timmy Keen wanted to come back. He said before the race last year he wanted a 1-2 finish, and they got it.
GT class leading car is in. The 59 is there. Brian standing by.
Andrew Davis brings the 59 Brumos Porsche in. Lee Keen, his co-champion from last year, will take over. Keen considerably taller than Davis, so he'll get in, get that adjusted. Tires beginning to roll away down here, and oh, the 88 almost clevers a tire on the way in. This is going to take a little time. The crewman had to go back and get it. Car's down, but now a problem. They need to raise it back up to make sure this right rear wheel is on tight. They do. They take the time to do it right. That's what's important. A mistake here could cost you. Spend a little time, make sure it's right, and get it back out there. So, problem with the right rear, it's taken care of. Now the Keen.
That's the key, Brian. Don't panic. The right rear changer obviously felt there was a problem and just alerted the team. Do not send him. Probably cost them about 10 seconds, but that's not a big deal at this stage of the game. You obviously want to perfect and execute those pit stops. They're going to bobble now and again. The key is not to really magnify the problem and send him before the wheel is tied.
Right, because if that wheel comes off, it's 3.5 miles before you can come back to get another one. Of course, the loss there, even if you can make it back, is substantial. That 10 seconds, that doesn't mean anything.
And Cal, your point is pertinent there because crew chief of Brumos Racing, Skip Shinsing, said we're not going to change anything this year in 2012. You know, we're not going to get caught up in the fact that we won the championship. We're not going to change. We're just going to get better. We're going to refine our procedures. We're going to polish, and we're going to just try and be better than we were in 2011.
We talk about these new cars, these new body Daytona prototypes, certainly the vets, and then you see the Rileys there of the Ganassi team. One of the problems that everyone was concerned about was if you damage the bodywork, it seemed to be taking a lot longer to fix. Now, something happened at the test here was that Scott Pruitt had a big crash with that 01 machine. They lost a day of testing, but what they did learn was what was going to break in an incident and really gave them a lot of insight into what they would need to fix. Jamie's on the spot with his GT car.
Yes, the 23 from Alex Job Racing has come to pit lane. They are doing a driver change. Emmanuel Collard is taking over for Marco Holzer. They're also taking the time to clean up the windscreen. They're going to do 4 new Continental tires as well as a full tank of fuel. They want to make sure that when Emmanuel goes out there, he has a nice, clean car to work with. The team taking their time. They're hoping to be the rabbit in this race. They want everybody to start chasing them, and they want to do it with a surprise. So right now, this crew working hard, getting the belts on so they can get back out there. But the number 48 behind them, they had this problem on their last pit stop. They could not get the car refired. It looks like that one was a much easier stop. Now the number 23 driver change taking longer than normal. They should be finished with this by the time the fuel and the tires are done. Door shut, he's leaving.
Overall race leader is in.
Driver change. I think John Pugh's going to be next up to the plate. What they want to do is try and get their regular season drivers in there, get some championship points, Brian.
02 is in as well. So right now the race has come to pit road. Osnegre has pulled a little further down. I think you're right, Calvin. I'm a long way away, but I believe it looked like John Pugh, who was climbing in here at the 02. The fuel just going in, waiting on a full load of Sunoco. It's in, down and away. It looks like Dixon now in the car.
So all very smooth and calm there at the Ganassi camp.
A little bit quicker stop, as you can see. They've leapt around the leader when they came into the pits, and now the car's not firing up. Gets a quick push start. He's up and away, and just get into the rhythm. You get really charged up, Dorsey, for your first stint, and this is what the teams like to do. Rotate these drivers through, get them settled down for a long 24-hour event.
So I'm sure one of the windshield tear-offs off. That's a very opportunistic thing to do right now, because we're going to go into the point where the sun is right in your eyes, and with that dirty windscreen, you just cannot see a thing.
Just a little after 5 p.m. East Coast time here in Daytona Beach, Florida. For those of you just turning on, we welcome you to the coverage of the Rolex 24. And let's bring you up to speed. Ryan Dial led this 50th anniversary field to green and took off just like the GT pole sitter did, Andrew Davis.
Yeah, Jeff Siegel took the lead at the initial start. Then we saw contact between two of the Ferraris. Johannes van Overbeek trying to go inside Tony Villander. Contact between the two Ferraris. They got away with it.
74 Audi here with a very scary moment, but gathers it all up. This car's been loose all race long.
This has been the story of the race, though. Major dramas at Wayne Taylor's SunTrust Racing, the Corvette. Engine problems, and they have just been stationary after completing just 14 laps.
Here we see the 99 car showing a lot of speed. They had an alarm problem inside the cockpit in the early going, but here we see Alex Gurney going to the front ahead of the pole-sitting car. Enzo Podolicchio is behind the wheel, having taken over from Ryan Dial.
And this man, Oz Negri, the most aggressive so far of the Daytona prototype since we've green flag. He's been running as far up his lead for quite a while.
Looking nice and smooth. However, sideways went Hollywood star Patrick Dempsey, co-owner of Dempsey Racing and the man who stood on the podium here a year ago. And as you saw there, no harm done, and Patrick got it heading in the right direction. So as they stand right now, the 0-1 of Scott Pruitt on top over the pole-sitting car of Enzo Podolicchio. Ryan Hunter-Reay, another Star Works Ford Riley there, but it's the older Generation 2 Daytona prototype ahead of Antonio Garcia in the Spirit of Daytona Corvette, runs fourth. And I believe Michael Valiente might be behind the wheel of that car now. And then Mamo Gidley in GT. It is Sean Edwards in that Momo-sponsored NGT Porsche, who leads the way over Shane Lewis in the Magnus Porsche of John Potter and then Patrick Pilet. So there's been a lot of change, there's been a lot of interest. No major dramas on track, however, a nightmare for the SunTrust Corvette.
Yeah, and Timmy Keane, I believe, on the radio here to Scott Pruitt. They're stretching their fuel a little bit further than the other guys, and that can be significant over the course of one of these long races. And sometimes you can be just half a lap off, Dorsey. You may just be a margin short in terms of doing the extra lap, but certainly the 01 field, they've got a good handle on fuel mileage, and certainly that's a strategy too in terms of how you roll out of the gas pedal, trying to save that little bit of fuel.
Good look at Scott looking out the window there, how bad the visibility is. Of course, that windscreen has not been cleaned up yet. Looking right at that sun as you head down into turn one. You have to be very cautious. They'll be cleaning that up very shortly.
And that is one of the key differences between this, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and the 24 Hours of Le Mans. You can see the sun beginning to set now. As I mentioned, we're just after 5 p.m. local time. You do in excess of 13 hours in darkness here at the Rolex 24, and that makes it tough.
That's the other spot that it's really bad when you turn for that banking. You're looking straight up the hill at a 31-degree incline right at the sun.
8's on pit road, and there is a driver change. I'll look inside the car. I'm trying to figure out who it is. Got out. 8 back underway.
Was about 3 feet tall as Alan McNish. Well,
that's what I was thinking. It might have been, but it didn't seem to be a phone book in there.
I think we may see Scott Pruitt hit pit road this time. He's done 27 laps. 28 is about their margin, I think. So let's take a look, ride with him through NASCAR 3 and 4.
Radio communication was from team manager Tim Keane.
Got to be down to 45 miles an hour when you hit the stripe there by the cone, entering the pit right there. You got to get it slowed down, otherwise you get a penalty.
Speaking of penalty, that's what occurred to this car, this team, late in the race last year when Joey Han hit a tire that was sitting there stationary in the pit box. We thought at the time it was disastrous, and it may have put an end to their hopes, but a brilliant drive from Joey Han got them back in contention to ultimately go to victory lane.
Scott Pruitt has been amazingly calm on the radio, talking to Timmy Keane about the handling of the car. And a little bit of understeer early on. They're already blowing radiators out on this Lexus power plant, and I see a lot of rubber come out of the front. down the right side of that car. Some oil streaks down the right side. Seems to me a little bit early for that.
Car looks pretty clean, trying to identify what Brian was seeing there on the right side. Maybe from the door there, Dorsey, looks like something. Some of these systems where they replenish, maybe there's a small leak there. I can't imagine it's an engine issue, but...
Continue to monitor the 01. So Pruitt has pitted. The Ganassi guys are in good shape. Dixon's up there, but so too is Bob Stallings, Gainsco, Red Dragon. Maymo Gidley now behind the wheel. John Fogarty will be the third in that driver rotation. As we welcome you back to Daytona International Speedway, we are under our first full course yellow. And the reason is the Alliance Autosport Porsche over on the backstretch, just on the other side of the bus stop there, with Daryl Schoff behind the wheel, is stationary and needed rescuing. Really tough story and a tough break here for the Risi Ferrari 62. Jimmy Bruni went from 45th to 10th, but then had to come in.
Yeah, and it's full course yellow, which means the pit lane will be closed, but you are allowed in an emergency with a flat tire, if you're absolutely out of fuel, to fix that one problem but not service the car. So this should be legal. The one thing I'm concerned about, I believe, with that car parked over in the bus stop chicane, that Jimmy Bruni just blew through that bus stop chicane. Now that is a penalty.
So there's a quick update on GT. How about the guy who was on pole position and led early? Andrew Davis is with Brian.
I just walked up and I was talking to Andrew about his ride. He said it was kind of fun leading there at the start, but you also mentioned that you had some concerns about the 59 as well, perhaps.
Well, it's running really good, and it was a blast just being able to pull away there and lead that first stint, although I saw the 44 and the 23 were fighting pretty hard back there. We had a small vibration, but we've been struggling with some vibrations with the wheels over the course of the last 2 days. So I think probably just a wheel weight had come off, so it was a little bit of a bumpy ride at high speeds, but the number 59 Brumos Porsche is running really well, and you know, that was a lot of fun. I think we're in good shape here.
I know earning that Rolex is important to you, but earning the pole, how special was that?
Well, you know, for me personally, I missed the pole here by the same amount that I won it on Thursday in 2006. So yeah, that was nice to be on the right side or the left side of the front row, and also just an honor to be leading the field, such an amazing field in the 50th anniversary of the Rolex 24.
Well, best of luck. Congratulations on your run. They're qualified. Daytona prototypes are in, guys.
02 is in with the rear deck lid coming off.
Yeah, well, let's just see. It looks like they may be doing an adjustment there on the ride height, Dorsey. It looks like they're going on one of the push rods in the back suspension, so maybe they going to both sides. You see it there, some kind of suspension adjustment, so maybe they're either dropping or raising, I would imagine. Maybe Scott has been feeling a little bit of bottoming out somewhere.
Yeah, no panic here. You see everybody just going about it. They knew what they were going to do when they came in, so this is not a surprise to them.
Brian, what do you see?
Calvin's exactly right. It's a push rod adjustment on each side. I don't know whether they're going up or down, but this is the perfect time to do it. The course goes yellow. You've got time. So that's when you're going to make those adjustments. Get back out there, work your way back up to the front. Getting the engine cover back on. Dixon will be back on track.
All right, as you know, and if you watch our broadcasts regularly, you know that when we're under a full course yellow, we'll take advantage of it and squeeze in some commercials. Before we do, how about Crone Racing driver Colin Brown watching speed in the motorhome? Well, you better rest up then, because you've got a lot of work to do over the next 22 and a half hours in car number 76 and Ricky Taylor. This one's a tough one. We're going to try and get maximum championship points, though, but we'll be back out in some time. We wish you well, but the victory will not go to that number 10 SunTrust car this year. So much manufacturer interest in this year's Rolex 24 at Daytona for the 50th anniversary, and mentioned it right at the top of the show. Terrific to have Audi part of Grand Am's GT ranks now with 2 R8s here. We may see as many as maybe 4, possibly 5 throughout this year's Rolex Sports Car Series. However, it's not going quite to plan for Stephen Kane and the Oryx team, as he came short just shy of the entrance to pit road and needed some rescuing.
kind of thinking that this could be fuel related. We listened to the crew chief talking back and forth, and they said bring the fuel box up to it. He wanted to get some mechanics, and don't let them tow you behind the wall. Of course, you just saw it go right behind the wall.
Yeah, Ron Mathers is the engineer there on the Oryx team this year, and he's trying to tell Stephen Kane, the driver, don't let him take you back there, and try and get you unhooked and pushed down to our pit box.
Yeah, but how do you get off the hook once on?
That's right.
We are still under this first full course yellow of the race. Remember, we mentioned the difference between Le Mans. Le Mans, you don't have many hours of darkness at all. Here, you can see there, 13 and a quarter hours of darkness. So the grind through the night here at Daytona is tough. Yeah, there's JB, Justin Bell, aboard the second number 4 Magnus Racing eBay Motors Children's Tumor Foundation car. And Justin, while he no longer drives full-time, was really excited about this opportunity.
Yeah, he's really got a passion for getting back behind the wheel, and he's got some great businesses that he's working with alongside this effort, and it'll be fun to talk to JB during the course of this race. Tell you what though, Dorsey, when you look at that 13 hours of darkness, it's not quite dark anymore here at Daytona with this lighting system that they have. I mean, it's totally different ball games back when we were doing it back in the early 90s.
Yeah, nothing like it used to be at all, and nothing like Sebring either for that matter. But, you know, this place is lit up like a big city at night, so it's not that bad.
Speaking about lighting up like a big city, Derek White, we saw some pictures of his house this year. He must have been 3 months putting the lights up there, and surprised he's got time to do any driving, but he's a fun character. He likes to give me a hard time, so I'll try and tune him up a little bit over the next 24 hours.
And here is the 36 Mazda. We mentioned that it had young teenager Jarrett Andretti aboard. Well, it has also got former Rolex 24 at Daytona winner John Andretti on board as well. One of about 7 Mazda RX-8s in this 2012 field. Transition to a team that is very familiar with the Mazda RX-8. The 69 boys of Emil Asentado and Jeff Siegel, one of their driving pals this year, is multi-time class winner here, Anthony Lazzaro, who is incredibly familiar with the Ferrari product.
I spoke to him after he ran the car at the test. He said, boy, oh boy, this is going to extend my driving career. He said, this car is so easy to drive with the paddle shifting and everything. He said, you should get back behind the wheel. I said, what if I could see?
We are not too far away from getting this field in order and going back to racing. But before we do, let's check in with Brian Till.
Mike Shank standing up on the box, looking at the monitors and looking at the timing and scoring screen. And Mike, right now, 60 cars had one heck of a run today. So has the 6. Last year, you had all 3 cars inside the top 10. It looks like you're heading towards another pretty good Rolex.
Yeah, I felt all along that we had good cars here. We didn't get to show it in qualifying for various reasons, but right now, both guys are doing great. We got Philippe Nasser in the 6. We got John Pugh. Osnager had a great run in the Live On car, and the cars are really good. So we just try to make it to the end here and keep putting them down.
Keep putting the laps down. And all they want to do down here, guys, they told me, tires and fuel, tires and fuel. Jamie?
The number 74 from Oryx Racing, it was a fuel issue. They did run out of fuel. They were on their way to pit lane when that full course caution came out, and he did not have enough to make it in. So the crew went out, filled him up as much as they could, came back down pit lane, missed the pit stall. He's got to go out and do another lap, and then he'll be back to pit lane. So course Lucas.
You see under caution there, you see cars passing the leaders and the safety car. This is what we call the wave-by procedure, where any GT cars that are trapped behind the safety car and between their class leader are allowed to get this free wave by Dorsey and effectively get back on the lap of their leaders. So it's really unfortunate the safety car comes out at the wrong point. It's really hurting the GT cars in terms of really splitting them by a complete lap. This is a great way of really equalizing the field again.
And of course the purpose is when we go back to green flag racing coming up, the lead Daytona prototype car is the overall leader, but the lead GT car will be in fact the car that is leading the GT class. Not all mixed up. Yeah, well, in theory.
It is confusing.
But you can get a lap back if you're lucky enough.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, what it's going to do, we're not going to see a GT field at the end of this race, someone leading by 2 or 3 laps. I can guarantee you that. There's going to be a ton of these cars on the lead lap because of this procedure.
Patrick Pilet on board the TRG 66, the famous 66 for Kevin Buckler's group. That's a good driving lineup. Alan Simonson, Dominic Farnbacher, and Ben Keating, along with the French driver who's behind the wheel right now. Now, good news here. There were reports earlier that the 50-plus Predator team had gone behind the wall for repairs. So this is the car that has AC/DC's lead singer Brian Johnson behind the wheel. Now here is the Allegra Motorsports team principal. It's a cooperative operation and organisation. Carlos De Quesada is now driving.
We saw Brian Johnson behind the wheel when it went behind the wall, and we saw bits of smoke. Of course, we're kidding about these guys, except for Carlos being over 50, so it's okay for it to smoke. I would imagine they addressed some sort of a leak that they had, because it doesn't look that bad now.
Yeah, team's worked really hard. Carlos owns this car. It's the 2006 championship winning car from Krone Racing, so it's got some good heritage.
Of course, my old teammate Elliott Forbes Robinson will take the wheel of that car later on, and he's no stranger to Daytona. I'd hate to think how many of these 24 he's been in.
And 22 starts I think he's had there, Dawes. 2 overall wins and another one in class. I mean, and he's just got that passion. He loves to keep coming back, like Jack Baldwin and guys like that.
And throw in 1996 winner Jim Pace into that mix as well, who has been coaching Brian Johnson and Byron DeFore.
I think I'd fit right in that car. I'd be almost a 60 though, the plus.
I'd love to see it, man.
Are you not comfortable up here?
No, I'm pretty nice up here, actually. Thank you.
Okay, we are coming to green. End of our first full course yellow. Shadows starting to take effect through the tri-oval here, and we've got a Ganassi car up front. Fancy that. The 01 of Scott Pruitt leads the field to green.
One of the rules here is you are not allowed to even initiate a pass until you get to the stripe. So these guys have to be really careful and just stay in line until you get to the start-finish line, even if the green is out. Everyone looked like they did a nice, clean job.
Oh, the 02 was pushy there. That was Scott Dixon. He was not going to hang around, and he wanted to get through the traffic to come right up on the back of the 99 of Memo Gidley.
Triple stints for the Ganassi boys early on. Maximum drive time is 3.5 consecutive hours, so all of these boys have to be on their toes and watch those log times.
That was a quick shot of that orange combos. Doran Delara, the 77. Had some troubles early, went back to the garage, now back out on track.
Nick Janssen and Tracy Krone's car back there, the green car, are really getting aggressive in traffic here, trying to make something happen as you see it right now.
Tell you what, the Fords are looking really good here today. Both the Shank cars, both the Starworks cars have shown a lot of speed.
And the Fords lost 500 revs from last year too, and they are showing a lot of straightaway speed, so doesn't seem to have hurt that much anyway.
That's a great shot there, Dorse, isn't it, to show you the difference between the Generation 2 and Generation 3 Riley cars. The Riley Daytona prototypes. John Pugh in the middle of that shot, the second car, and then the third one along there, car number 2 is Michael Valiente for Starworks, and that's that older generation Riley chassis that has been so successful for Bill Riley and Riley Technologies, winning the last 7 Rolex 24s at Daytona.
What you can see there between the 2 rear wing struts, there's a little blocker in there. All of these cars have been to the wind tunnel with so many changes during the off-season with the new cars, the old cars. They had to determine that everyone was on an equal playing field, and they put that little blocker there to try and create a little bit of drag in the Generation 2 cars. And you can see it right there.
Look who's coming up here. Spirit of Daytona, that blue number 90 right there. Full of factory GM drivers. Troy Fliss's Spirit of Daytona group that have been the spearhead for this Corvette program. And they've been a little bit quiet early on, but perhaps that's their strategy, Dorse.
And don't you hurt that car, boys, because that is really that's the showpiece car that Corvette brought out. It's a beautiful blue car, and it's I don't know, arguably I think that's the cleanest car in the field.
So we'll watch what they get up to. Meanwhile, we've been watching the 56 AF Waltrip Ferrari that had a really positive opening couple of runs. We know that DW Darrell Waltrip's watching. So Jamie, make sure you tell Mikey, Big Brother's watching.
Michael Waltrip, we know Darrell's at home watching this race. As we see driver change beginning to happen, we know you're going to get in the car next, but you're 6'3", your other co-drivers, they're 5'6". How do you compensate for that?
I cross my legs. It's really close and tight in there for me, but someone asked the other day, I was standing by Rob, and they said, is the car comfortable? I said, it is for him, and he's the one that's kind of the reason why we're here. So we, Travis and I both, we just squeeze in and smile a lot because we're racing a Ferrari at Daytona. I didn't see that one coming. I never knew that was going to be part of the deal.
As you're getting ready for your stint behind the wheel, what's going through your mind as you're watching this race?
I've had a little bit of trouble trying to figure out how to regulate my 5-hour energy because I got to drink a little bit for my stint, but I want to be able to rest later. So that's been one concern, but mainly just handing the car over to Travis in good shape so that he can go have some fun. That's what's so interesting about this road racing. You really don't want to let your teammates down. You want everybody to have fun. So just giving it to Travis in good shape.
Michael Waltrip clearly energetic and ready for his stint behind the wheel.
Well, as so many NASCAR drivers that come up here and do this, they really do have fun. The pressure's off of them, guys. I mean, and these cars are so much more fun to drive than that big old beast stock car is. So, I mean, they come here, you see them smiling all the time, and look at this GT battle. They look more like stock cars than anything.
In GT, Emmanuel Collard leads over Lee Keen, Mike Rockenfeller, Richard Leitz, and then Paul Edwards in that 88 Autohouse Camaro. This is a little further back in the group. This is Lazaro, Kaufman, John Edwards, and James Hinchcliffe.
See the Ferraris in the thick of the action there as a 63 car of Bertolini just stuffs it down the inside in the Risi Ferrari. Bad news for the 62 car. We saw it come in with that flat tire. We thought about it, and yes, it did blow that back chicane. That's a no-no, so he didn't get a penalty for coming in the pit lane to change the tire. He did get a penalty for going straight through the chicane.
Boy, Matt Bell in the 75 Stevenson Motorsport Camaro jumped the curb there and almost got into the side of one of the Porsches. I guess with the blinding light of the sun right now, I guess he just misjudged it, but he launched off that curb, and when he did, it got pretty tight there.
Saw a quick shot of the 70 Speed Source Mazda. That's been a little quiet today. We haven't seen a lot of it. It's been further down in the GT field. More dramas for the Oryx Audi. What's going on with the R874?
Left rear down the way it looks. Smoke is from that tire. We'll see it when he turns back here.
Yeah, he needs to give a bit more room there. He needs to get off the line a little bit. Coming through that chicane, the cars carry a lot of speed. Car looks... Hey, there's more smoke there. What's going on, Jamie?
Just checked in with the team. It's a clutch issue for Oryx right now. They are going to take the car back to the garage and try and get it sorted out.
Oh, boy. That's just a low-profile tire. That's not a flat.
Yeah, that's not going to be a quick fix on that car.
No, that's not going to be a big fix at all.
So Stephen Kane will limp back to the pits.
Won't make it.
And it's time for Dorsey, Calvin, and I to say bye. Stepping into the speed booth, Bob Varsha, Tommy Kendall, and David Hobbs. See you in a few hours.
Welcome back to a beautiful evening at Daytona International Speedway. There you see the number 74 Oryx Audi R8 making its debut here at the golden anniversary of the Rolex 24. Stephen Kane of Northern Ireland behind the controls when apparently their clutch failed.
Yeah, that's going to be a long fix. Very unfortunate. Just a couple of those new R8s in the field, Bob. They've shown a lot of speed, particularly through the infield section. And I think once they get to the shorter, tighter tracks, they're going to be very, very strong. So team manager Tom Mapplethorpe and the guys from England, essentially the crew, and they worked last year with the Dyson Racing team. In fact, won a race at Baltimore in the ALMS P1 category.
I'm Bob Varsha alongside Calvin Fish. You might have been expecting David Hobbs and Tommy Kendall, as Lee Diffie said, on the other side of the break, but unfortunately, David and Tommy lost the map coming up on the elevator, and as a result, are not here yet.
They're tweeting for directions.
That's right. They're tweeting for directions. We're having a lot of fun on Twitter, and I hope you'll join in the conversation. All of our 15 and a half hours of live coverage here at the 50th Rolex 24 at Daytona. Sun growing low. Soon those lights will be on at limited strength, but enough to illuminate this entire 3.5-mile road course that has seen so many memories down through the years and making more with every lap. Stand by. We'll be back live here on Speed in just a moment. Heading for the infield tri-oval at the world-famous Daytona International Speedway. We are about to go green once again after a short yellow flag to retrieve the 74 Oryx Audi R8 with a mechanical problem. I'm Bob Varsha with David Hobbs and Tommy Kendall. They finally got off the Twitter and they are back on. Chris Neville and Jamie Howe downstairs, and we are green. Scott Pruitt doing a triple stint. He's been in that 01 red, white, and blue Telmex Ganassi Riley BMW since the green flag here at Daytona. But right now, Michael Valiente, a last-minute addition to his team, slides in the top spot, followed by Pruitt, Jan Magnussen, and that bright blue number 90 Corvette Daytona prototype.
Yeah, the number 2 car, Valiente, looking pretty good. Of course, Scott Pruitt started qualified 13th, didn't qualify at all yesterday, had a blown engine in the morning, so couldn't qualify, so he gradually wound his way up through the field, taking care not to go cracking into anybody. So that's the way to drive a long distance race, and no one knows that better than him. Completed every lap here in the last 4 years. Hard to even comprehend that, Tommy.
I know. You can't get over that. You've been talking about that for 3 days.
I'll be talking about it in my sleep forever. It's just so mind-boggling to me.
If someone would have told you that back in '62, that someone would do that, you would have thought, oh, yeah, and we'll put a man on the moon.
Yeah, exactly.
Up to top speed on the long super stretch. Headed down for the chicane. Hard on the brakes right here. They look so graceful, as though they were floating over those curves through the chicane. But I can tell you, it is violent.
It's a pretty hard knot when you hit those curves. They're not too high, but high enough to get it through the car. But of course, you've got to use the curb. It's when you drop down behind it the real trouble starts.
Look at this diversity in the GT class. Ferrari, Ford Mustang, Porsche, Chevy Camaro, you name it, it's out there. Pass for second is Jan Magnussen. GM factory driver goes underneath the 4-time overall Rolex 24 champion Scott Pruitt to move into second.
I don't imagine Pruitt's panicking too much at this stage.
I would think not. Just under 21 hours, 50 minutes remaining. Don't forget, we'll be leaving the air at 11 p.m. Eastern tonight, but we will continue live streaming coverage with onboards, announce, and a whole lot more at speed.com until 9 a.m. Eastern Time Sunday morning. We'll rejoin you on the network to take you through to the finish. This golden anniversary of the Rolex 24. I see some grass there in the radiator inlet on that 90 Corvette.
Well, I tell you, it's easy to pick up here, and people start putting the wheel over the edge, kicking up dust, dirt, grass, and it gets into those radiators. That's the one thing that makes these, if there's any unreliability in these engines, that's one thing they'll get them if they're overheated. And it is warm here today.
I was talking to one of the ECR guys, and ironically, the problem with the 10 car obviously showed its head early, but they were pretty confident that the engine, I said, what keeps you up at night? He said, well, the two ways you hurt these cars is if you overheat them, get grass on the grill and you don't catch it, or if you over rev, and the only way you can over rev, unless there's a malfunction in the shift mechanism, is if you rush the downshift. A rev limiter will catch it on the way up, accelerating. But if you get it in the lower gear too quickly, it basically is what's called a mechanical over rev. Just
overruns
straight
it.
math. The speed of the rear wheels, the gear ratio, and so forth, and it turns the engine. So, well, and then lo and behold, they had the problem with the number 10 car right off the bat.
This is the GT battle of Manuel Collard, vastly experienced in sports cars, leading Lee Keen in the pole-sitting car in class, the 59 Brumos Porsche. Let's get down to the Porsche pits. Chris Neville.
Well, David Donahue will get behind the number 5 Corvette on the next stop. And David, I know the team's been working hard to try and get that problem sorted out. Where are they with that?
Well, we haven't found it yet, which first thing we did was change the ECU. The problem we think is electrical. The engine won't rev up over 6,000 RPM. Darren says he's really good under braking and good handling. It's just the guys are pulling away from whenever he has to go up in the RPM. The car won't run up there. So changing all kinds of things electrical. Done everything bulkhead back. Now they're doing some other stuff inside. The next stop might be long because they might do Lambda or something like that. They want to get our lap back first. We're running reasonably competitive. It's not lightning quick, but at least we're reasonably competitive the way we are. So we want to get that lap back before we do a lengthy stop.
Obviously very frustrating times down here, but this team is going through it step by step, trying to figure out what the electrical problem is with this car. Good thing is they have quite a few hours in firm to get it fixed.
This is exactly what Calvin talked about at the start of the show, crisis management. It's rare that a team will go through this event without some sort of an issue. Theirs happened right off the bat, and they quickly realized it wasn't something they could remedy quickly, so they got the car out there, formulated their plan. These new rules, once they get their speed back, if they can, getting back on the lead lap shouldn't be too much trouble.
Absolutely not at all, and considering they got off to such a terrible start on the first lap. His last lap was a 1:43, which compares very favorably to 1:42.9 for Valianti, and they are still, after all this time, only one lap down. Way up onto the banking.
You see the 56 Ferrari out of his rhythm here a little bit. The 44 Porsche went by, and looks like he's back up to speed. Joe Foster looking on his outside, and they're about to make it 3 wide. TRG car down here into the chicane.
That 56 is Rob Kaufman. Now, he would be the first to tell you he's not the fastest guy on that 4-driver team, along with...
Just got right in front of the turn of BMW there as he went into the chicane.
And there was contact.
I think there was.
That's the Waltrip car.
That's the other thing that can get you, is contact.
I mean, the three biggest issues as far as I'm concerned are traffic, traffic, and traffic. And we talked about it in the Open that, you know, you can talk patience all you want, but in the first hour we saw the two Ferraris get together, and the nature of these guys is to go. They're like guys you let off the leash. So that's really why the experience is such an important intangible here.
Manuel Collard, overall winner in 2005 with Wayne Taylor Racing. He also has a couple of podiums in this race in the GT category. 40-year-old Frenchman from Paris, France, former Porsche factory driver. So he really knows what he's doing in one of these cars.
Yeah, very, very experienced driver. Had to go at Formula One, didn't last very long, just didn't have the right opportunities. And has settled for a career of GT and long distance racing, makes good money. And drives extremely well.
Driving away from the third place car in class, it's Paul Edwards in the number 88 Camaro.
There's a Ferrari. That Ferrari that's in third is actually not on the lead lap, so that Camaro fourth running order is your third place car.
Using the draft up on the 31-degree banking of NASCAR turns 3 and 4. Used to be quite a bump there coming off that corner, but the repaving several years ago did away with that. All of the drivers will tell you how smooth this racetrack now is compared to what it was just a few years ago when it would just shake the fillings out of your teeth.
That bump was over the tunnel, and it was there forever, 40 years, and it was a real bone teeth rattler. It really was. Because these cars are pretty stiffly sprung, obviously, and because as they develop the downforce over the years, they've become stiffer and stiffer. So those bumps really got pretty hairy.
Back up to the second place battle in the overall and Daytona prototype. Jan Magnussen on the left, Scott Pruitt on the right. The newest iteration of the Daytona prototype class. 9 years after the formula was initially introduced to Grand Am road racing. There's your Pole City car of the race, the number 8. Trying to haul itself up to battle with the top two. That's Alex Popov from South America, lapping within a second of the race leader's pace. Stranded car.
That's the Justin Bell car.
That's
yeah,
his.
He is in the Justin car. Bell in there.
Talking with the crew, trying to diagnose the situation. Been a lot of years since Justin raced a Porsche, which is kind of ironic considering all the glory his father Derek achieved driving for the mark. Have a look from the onboard. There we go. Oh, did he get hit?
Oh, yeah.
That looks like he took a shot maybe from one of the Turner BMWs. Trying to refire. While he works at it, let's go down to Chris Neville.
Well, Tim King is the crew chief and team manager for the 01, the defending champions from last year. And Tim, we're seeing on the video a little bit of liquid trailing off the right side of the car of the 01 and the 02. What is that?
We fill our pressure parts, we put it in the top, and it's just a little leakage out of the cap. Nothing to worry about. We've had that before.
Now, pretty much just you guys, Ganassi, and also Action Express are the only teams that are triple stinting drivers early on here. What's the philosophy behind that?
Well, triple stint now, we're just over 2 hours into the race, but we're thinking, you know, gives things a chance to settle down with the same driver and everything starts settling down a bit rather than just keep throwing new driver into the mix every hour. So I think we're in good shape now.
Sounds like they're still working on getting the handling right on both the 01 and the 02. As Scott Dixon and Scott Pruitt have said, the cars are snappy loose.
I think I detected a certain amount of the proverbial whistling past the graveyard. No problem, nothing to worry about. Tim King made some incredibly gutsy calls in this race last year to take his 01 car to victory. Justin Bell still sits down there at the East Horseshoe. 4 cars, the top 4 cars in the overall, finished on the lead lap last year.
And look at that traffic. This is what we talked about. You've got 8 Daytona prototypes right in a row there. And obviously the Magnussen car doesn't quite have the pace. The Star Wars car has disappeared about a second a lap. And you see them starting to queue up behind here. You've got that Shank car, the 6 car, the other Star Wars car. And so you got kind of a battle on both fronts. Pruitt's kind of looking for a way by, but doesn't want to take much of a chance. At some point, he's probably going to have to pull the trigger and try to get around Magnussen.
Well, of course, this is always the danger when you get a whole bunch of these cars all very evenly performance. Somebody's a little bit off the pace and holds them up. And then someone towards the back of the line can start to get just a little bit, frustrated, and that's when things can go wrong.
Number 4 Porsche, Justin Bell, still hasn't moved. There you see it.
All right, we're heading.
No sign of a full course caution yet, but the service trucks are moving.
Did he get help on that spin?
Oh yes,
I believe he
definitely got help.
Yeah, I think he just stalled it, and it just won't refire.
Yeah. And full course caution, our 3rd, unless I'm sadly mistaken. So the field will be neutralized, and it looks like a lot of the pit crews are about to go to work. There's your top 5 in the overall, and there's 5 more. Michael Waltrip, helmet on, ready to get in the car. We'll be back. Back at the fading light of Daytona International Speedway, we are still under a full course caution, and pit stops have commenced. The number 2 that led before the yellow came out, Mimo Gidley, currently in the lead in the 99 Gainsco Red Dragon car. Michael Valiente still shown in the number 2 from Vancouver, British Columbia. First race for him in the series at all, GT or prototype, since the Homestead round 2 of 2011. There's our pole sitting car. Chris Neville, what's going on?
Well, they didn't get the headlights plugged in before the race, so Peter Barron just said his crew is going to take their time here. They're going to get Lucas Luhr behind the wheel, get the headlights plugged in. The 2 car, which was leading before the caution, also serviced fuel and tires, but the 60 car, Mike Shank's car, beat that car out. Just fuel on Mike Shank's car.
They see the driver lineup. Sweet sound of that 5-liter Ford V8 thundering up the pit lane here.
Good wholesome Indiana name like Lucas Luhr.
Right. And there's a beautiful North Florida sunset.
It has been an absolutely beautiful day. Perfect day for racing. Just a tad hot in the machine possibly, but really not too bad. And I don't think the forecast for tonight is too cool either, so just great.
An enormous crowd on hand. Yesterday at about 10 o'clock in the morning, the Speedway officials closed the infield. They simply had no more space for any more vehicles. You could still walk into the racetrack, but this place is absolutely packed. Don't forget, we'll be coming your way tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, taking right up to the end at 3:30, and a half hour of interviews with the winners to follow. And during the nighttime hours from 11 p.m. Eastern to 9 a.m., live video streaming at speed.com. Looks like the Ferris wheel is not a hot ticket right now. Can't imagine why. Those are probably some pretty good seats up there. There is an entire carnival set up just beyond the East Horseshoe, running all the way down through the kink to the West Horseshoe. There's Justin Bell, who was able to bump start his car behind the safety truck and get it going. He has lost quite a bit of track position. Distinctive Porsche engine sound. On board the 19 of Derek Whitus. Sequential gear shift. Of course, he's not ringing it out right now because they are behind the safety car. Let's get down to Chris Neville, standing by with sports car superstar Alan McNish of Scotland.
Yeah, we just saw Alex Papau get out of the 8-car, Lucas Lord get behind the wheel. And Alex, I saw you go over to the team. You wanted to hear the debrief. What is going on with the 8-car right now?
Car's basically pretty good, but for whatever reason, the connector with the headlights wasn't consistently attached. And so I had to take the nose off at the same time and reconnect it. But we've basically lost a couple of positions, but I don't think that's an issue.
You won Le Mans twice. You're still looking for an overall win here. Yeah. How is this race different than Le Mans?
Well, it's very different. You know, this, I'd say, is more about the concentration, whereas Le Mans is about the pure power. But this one, you can't stay in the battle for a long, long time. That's the important thing. Just don't drop off the lead battle.
Well, Alan McNish will get behind the wheel the next stop. Up.
Yeah, there are really very few legitimate comparisons between the 24 hours of Le Mans and the sister event here, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Two entirely different races. Like Michael Waltrip's getting into the Ferrari. We'll be back. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Still following the safety car here in the golden anniversary, America's Endurance Classic. It's been a pretty dramatic race thus far, and while we await the green flag, we'd like to welcome a very special guest to our speed announce booth, three-time world champion, Sir Jackie Stewart. Sir Jackie, thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Great to be here. Nice to be back to Daytona. I haven't been here for about 12 years. Before that, it was while I was with ABC doing more or less stock car racing from Daytona, but very enjoyable.
You enjoying it so far?
Yes, very nice. It's, well, first of all, wonderful weather, and so many people here we know. And funnily enough, so many drivers that were with Paul Stewart Racing are here.
Exactly.
About 6 of them, I think, so which is really nice. And of course, we had them in the formative classes of the sport just when they were beginning.
Have you seen Alan McNish? You had a word with him?
Yes, I had dinner with Alan last night. He's in good form. And Daria, I spent a lot of time with him, and saw Jan Magnussen today. Justin Wilson was on our lot as well. Montoya was driving for us, so it's been really nice.
Well, Jan Magnussen, to me, is just, I spoke to him yesterday at length, and of course I asked him how his son was doing, because he's racing in Europe.
Very successfully.
Very successfully. And I remember you saying that you thought Jan Magnussen, when he won that British Formula 3 championship, you said that Jan Magnussen is going to be the next Jackie Stewart. Obviously, he wouldn't be quite that good, but he'd be sort of getting on that way. Well, and I don't know what happened, but I mean, he certainly turned out to be a great long-distance driver. And it's hard to believe that now that his kid is the same as he was when he drove for you.
Well, you know, he...
it's grisly.
Ayrton Senna was the man who did very well in Formula 3. His batting average, my batting averages were pretty high. It was 11 out of 13 races. I won one, I was second, and the other one I had a mechanical. But Jan had a better batting average than that, and of Ayrton Senna. And he really was the most, well-balanced Formula 3 driver I had ever seen. But when he got into Formula 1, and we took him into Formula 1, he somehow or other tightened up. He couldn't handle the pressure of, in those days it was a one lap, one car on the track, qualifying.
Yeah.
And David Coulthard didn't like that either, and Jan just fell apart for qualifying.
Okay, we'll continue talking with Sir Jackie Stewart in just a moment. Right now we are ready to go green. Safety car bringing the field around into the infield tri-oval. You saw the 64 TRG Porsche had a quick spin down in turn 1. Off comes the safety car, and Memo Gidley will lead them to the green flag in the 99 Gainsco Red Dragon Corvette DP. Oh, lock up. That's the number 50. One of the second generation Daytona prototypes. That's the 50-plus team, including AC/DC lead singer Brian Johnson. But make no mistake, there are 3 former overall winners of this race on that team. Lots of driving expertise. There's Gidley.
The 99 car, of course, being driven by Dan Gurney's son, along with Gidley. And just, a lot of people here just would love to see him win on the 50th anniversary of his dad's win. very first Rolex race. Absolutely. Nasty bit of traffic coming out of that horseshoe there, Jackie.
I spoke to Dan, by the way, as you speak. I spoke to him in the last 4 or 5 days. He's in great form, and he's coming to Goodwood this year.
Oh, really?
They're honouring Dan Gurney and his career.
Excellent.
At the Goodwood Revival in September.
Terrific choice.
No, a great man. I raced against Dan a lot, and a real gentleman. He was a great ambassador for America. He and Phil Hill did a great job, but Dan fell off his motorbike and had quite a lot of injuries.
He's always falling off the darn thing.
80 years of age, though. He fell off his motorbike.
Old enough to know better, I'd say.
Wow.
We need to thank you too, Sir Jackie, for standing in for our absent Grand Marshal, A.J. Foyd, who had to go back into the hospital for some medical treatments, and we hope he's doing well.
A.J., really, there's an American driver of enormous talent. I mean, he won Le Mans, he won this race in Daytona 500, he won Le Mans, he won Indianapolis. He did it all. A.J. has been a great asset to motorsport, quite controversial at times, but a great man.
As we watch the action on the track, I know we're supposed to be talking about the Rolex 24, but we can't have a man of your stature in the Formula One world without talking a little bit about the 2012 season set to begin in Melbourne in March.
Well, it'll be, I think, a good season because McLaren, I think, will be better prepared for this season than they were for last season. They started off with a rather poor performance, as did Ferrari. Red Bull started off with a hot car and two very good drivers, of course, Vettel and Webber. But I think this year the other guys will have caught up. Adrian Newey is still probably the finest designer of racing cars in the world. He's the Red Bull chief technical officer, but I think it'll be a good year.
I hope so too. There's Emmanuel Collard, very odd off there, and you'll notice no headlights on that car.
No, he's got the lights out, and maybe his brain too. Just
Well,
at
it's
that very moment.
a bit of an odd thing for someone like Emmanuel Collard to do that.
That was a wee bit late, would you say?
Optimistic. And you're not really straight there, so I think he realized he wasn't going to get it stopped, and rather than squaring up that left front tire, ran off there a bit.
Oh, the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Just thinking about something else as he arrived at the corner, however. I mean, long-distance sports car racing, and David knows this too, I did very little of it, but what you had to do was drive well within the envelope. You didn't want to be on the limit. It wasn't a Formula One, it wasn't a 100-meter dash. And making mistakes is the one thing you want to stay away from.
It seems like just a few minutes ago we were watching the sunset. Look how quickly it's getting dark. The television cameras make it look brighter than it really is.
Yes, the sun's gone down, and this is somebody else making a little excursion.
Yes.
But, you know, when the sun's going down, a nice day like this, the light is difficult when you're driving into it. And the same thing happens at Le Mans and all the other long-distance races. Quite testing.
It's very bad here.
Let's see what happened to Lee Keen in the pole-sitting car in the GT class. Is he going to get some help here? Ferrari off driver's right, Porsche off driver's left, and again, as you described earlier, Tommy, I think that was discretion being the better part of valor. Lee Keen decided not to try to swing that out.
Oh, see, he left the room, but he put himself out on the really dirty part of the track. And even we're only a couple hours in, and the dirt's already started to build up there.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that gets in the radiators and gets into the brakes and into the brake ducts and can be disastrous.
That 62 Ferrari was Jimmy Bruni, very experienced racing driver in a very good Ferrari from Risi Competizione.
Because we were talking to Alan McNish a minute ago about a difference between Le Mans and the 24 hour. And of course, the biggest difference of all, apart from this is a much shorter track and a much more arduous one in the infield here, is of course the length of the night here. You know, you've got 13 and a half hours of darkness here and about 4 at Le Mans.
Is that so? I never worked that one out. I did Le Mans once. Once was quite enough for me. But it is difficult. Yeah, Michael Waltrip. Is that the Waltrip family, the famous Waltrip?
Yes, it is.
I knew his daddy very well.
A Kentucky kid driving a Ferrari. That's like a Scotsman with the name Franchitti. You were giving him a hard time at the drivers' meeting about that today.
Exactly. I imagine a Scotsman called Franchitti. When he drove with that, I was going to try and get him to, by depot, change his name to McTavish or something, but never did. But the Waltrip family have been very successful, haven't they?
Oh, yes.
Boy, I'll say.
And well, Michael's won the 500 and the July race here in the Cup car. He's won in the trucks as well. But he's committed to the World Endurance Championship in this Ferrari. He's not running full-time in NASCAR any longer.
Really?
He and his partner, Rob Kaufman, who among many other things runs a restoration and classic car sales business in Charlotte, North Carolina. A real car guy.
Well, there are a lot of real car people here. You know, people come down for this race who are real enthusiasts of cars. That's one of the great things about the Rolex 24-hour race, because it's another Porsche having a little moment.
Yeah, a lot of people just...
Another one of the TRG cars.
Right.
You know, there's quite a disparity, I suppose, in driver skills in a race this big with that many starters.
Big.
And an awful lot of drivers. I noticed there was a couple of teams had 6 drivers. And to get the standard as high as you need it, it's quite difficult sometimes.
Let's see what happened to Jim McCallion, who in his day job is the president of the Long Beach Association. Put on the Long Beach Grand Prix every year for the Indy cars. And he loves to go sports car racing. Probably not loving it quite as much at that particular moment.
But loving it better than he did about 5 years ago when he had that massive shunt in the infield coming through the kink.
Close call there with one of the Mazdas, and I think that's Justin Bell.
Trying to get back up to speed, after that spin and stall with an assist, we believe, from Boris Said in one of the Turner BMW M3s.
It is not snowing. There we go.
Yeah, the television camera sort of belies it's a lot darker than it looks on that picture there.
Something else we should mention too, you'll see the grandstands and they appear to be nearly deserted. The distinction between, say, stock car racing here at Daytona International Speedway, where everybody wants to be up high in the grandstand so they can see the whole track, road racing is entirely different. This crowd wants to be right down at ground level so they can get right up to all of the corners and watch the cars go by and smell the brakes and the exhaust. It's a very different sort of entertainment.
And interestingly, I was speaking to some of the people when I went round in the pace car for the opening lap. I was asking how many people they had here. They were saying 75,000 people, because the infield is busier than it's ever been in the history of the Rolex race.
I've never seen it like this. It's absolutely packed.
It's packed, and that's the real enthusiast. But you're right; they want to be down track level, close to it, whereas you're very remote on top of these grandstands.
There used to be a joke about when you came to this race and you looked to those, you looked at the grandstands, and the joke was that road racing, the drivers know the names of all the fans, and the stock cars, the fans know the names of all the drivers. But here, the infield is sold out, and I can tell you when the last time that happened, it was exactly never that they've sold out the infield of a road race.
Oh, really?
They'll sell as many tickets as they can get, but this one was closed down, and as a fan, I liked it. As a TV prima donna that couldn't get a parking pass for the infield, I wasn't as enthusiastic.
Well, Sir Jackie, we want to thank you very much for taking the time to come up and chat with us.
Well, very nice to be amongst you all, and congratulations with all your coverage, by the way. I see some of that from time to time, and it's lovely that you are covering particularly Formula One. From our point of view, Speed is doing a good job.
And you'll hear a lot from your friends back home in Europe, because it's going out on Motors TV. These pictures are being seen literally all around the world. Everybody wants a piece of the 50th anniversary Rolex 24 at Daytona. Good on them.
My pleasure.
Typically beautiful Florida evening here at Daytona International Speedway, and there's what we were talking about before the break. It is absolutely packed down there on the infield. So Jackie Stewart suggests 75,000 people. I believe that.
I believe that too. I mean, when we came out from the infield after the opening of the show and we had to come back to the booth, big crowd. Uh-oh,
94
the 94
Turner
car.
Motorsport.
Boris?
No, Billy Johnson.
Billy Johnson.
No, Billy Johnson, ooh.
Doesn't look like any outward damage, but well, now he's coming back up to speed. Perhaps. No, perhaps not.
Oh, he's waiting for the field. He's waiting, I think.
Waiting for a gap.
Yeah.
It's in the West Horseshoe. There he goes. As we were saying, like tailgating in football, there's an art form to watching road racing. And it can be pretty amusing to go out there and see the various ways people choose to do it, especially the rigs that they build out of the back of their trucks or their campers or what have you. And the smell of barbecue is absolutely everywhere. Great battle toward the front. We've got a pass for the lead. Justin Wilson to Michael Shank with Kerr Bagajanian. did this 1 lap ago to Memo Gidley in the 99.
Got a great toe off NASCAR's 3 and 4. Into the trioval, got underneath him. Gidley let him go. I mean, not making a desperate attempt to hold him back. Absolutely no point at all with 21 hours to go. So good move there by Justin Wilson. So good, a good drive for him this year, this car. And of course, he's driving with AJ Allmendinger in that car, and there's about a 1.5 foot difference in the height.
Yeah, it's hard not to root for Justin. Justin coming back from a broken back. He broke his back. It didn't even crash. Compression fracture from hitting a compression just outside turn 1 at Mid-Ohio. First race back. You saw this car heading for the front with Oz Negri, and a number of people in the garage area had this car, their eye on this car as a, can't call it a dark horse, but this car isn't a surprise to the insiders for this car to be running so well.
10th lead change of the race thus far. Last year, the entire 24 hours produced 52. The record is 64. So we're off to a great start in that department. Let's go down to Chris Neville.
Well, Bob, the 02 car prior to that last caution was running in the top 5, but after the caution, Jamie McMurray, now behind the wheel, the Daytona 500 winner, slipped back to 11th. He's worked his way up to 10th right now, and the main reason there, when he got in the car, he did not have his radio engaged properly, so that car having to come back to pit lane, got that fixed, now back out on the track. But more importantly, about an hour ago, Brian Till reporting a suspension adjustment on the back end of that car, and I checked in with Scott Dixon on that. He said that the car was very loose in the slow speed and porpoising in the high speed stuff. He said the car is definitely getting better. Greg?
Yeah, Chris, in the GT ranks, the Stevenson Motorsports team has had one of those days so far. The 75 came in. Matt Bell did just a maintenance stop as he was accelerating away. The right rear axle failed. He had basically nothing but neutral. The engine was running. They're working on that. But one of the bigger stories is you talk about visibility. We've got great weather and everything, but most of the teams run tear-offs on the windshield. So when it gets all pitted and tore up, they can just rip one of these tear-offs off. Well, this team, when they got it, the supplier, the soap film they used to make it easy to peel, something was wrong with it. It went opaque when it dried. They had to take them all off. You can see what was left of it. There's nothing on here now, so as visibility gets worse, as it gets dark, of course the sun glares down, but this windshield, oil streaks, pitting and the like, it's going to be very difficult for these drivers to see for the duration of this 24 hours. For the 57 team car, it's been very quick, but it's had a little timing and scoring snafu. They hope to get that rectified. It has shown some great pace.
It's interesting, of course, here in Florida, there's so much, this whole peninsula is sand, and that sand really wreaks havoc on windshields.
Here's the 94 BMW driven by Boris Ed when he had that coming together with Justin Bell. I wonder if that's the damage they're repairing on the left front corner of that car.
That would be the corner he clipped him with.
Let's go down and hear more.
Yeah, Bob, that's correct. You can see putting a little bit of bare bond tape on this left front corner, trying to get that fixed up. Billy Johnson, Roush driver Billy Johnson behind the wheel right now. And also it looks like changing some spark plugs up on the left bank of this BMW motor. So initially the team was telling me that they were just going to fix the bodywork, but obviously they've got some type of electrical miss in the car too, or potentially a spark plug problem.
Boy, we've heard about a lot of electrical problems thus far.
Yeah, very strange. There we were all weekend. We've been talking about how unbelievably reliable these cars are, and we've seen more unreliability in this race than we have for a long time now, especially for some of the front runners.
A couple of two-car battles down through the infield trioval. And Magnussen in the 90 being trailed very closely by Philippe Nazir. Interesting guy, won the Sunoco Challenge for the right to come to Daytona and race in the Rolex 24. Formula 3 champion from Europe. Got a seat with Mike Shank Racing. Whoa!
And they're going around Michael.
Whoa. There's a braking lesson.
Gets wide, because once you get wide, you get out on that rolled up rubber and all the clag and the sand. A lot of sand out there because people clip the inside curb and it gradually gets swept to the outside of the International Horseshoe and gets very slick.
On board with Michael Waltrip, who's no doubt saying phew to himself.
And for someone like Michael, I mean, obviously he's been doing a little bit of this. He raced in Dubai a couple times, so it's not his first go-around. But that's when you're relatively new at it, that's one of the most disconcerting things. You can get a nice rhythm, and then all of a sudden you get it broken by this gaggle on both sides and just brings you back to reality.
Let's have another look. Headed for turn 3.
Looks like he caught Magnussen off guard by getting out of it in front of him, trying to be a nice guy. Nasser went to the outside, and then here comes the Krone car and the Ganassi car, making it 4.
Traffic.
And of course, the other thing is these NASCAR guys, I mean, they're used to close racing and side by side, but they're also used to just tapping fenders and that sort of thing. And in the NASCAR, in the Sprint Cup car, that's just fine. But these Ferraris in particular are not really made to be just tapping into each other. They're very pretty fragile, and so you've got to be careful.
Am I the only one that finds it a little bit ironic that they'll put more miles on these Ferraris in a day than most people do in a year?
Nope, not ironic at all. It's good to have Ferrari in Grand Am racing. Look at the mechanical diversity out there. Ford, Porsche.
Speed diversity too.
Yeah.
As Jackie Stewart said, you know, when he was in here with us, that there was a bit of a disparity in some of these drivers too. You know, we've got the professionals, you've got some pro-ams, and you've got some definitely am-ams out there as well. So
we got a tweet from IndyCar driver Tony Kanaan. Oops, we lost the tweet. Tony. We need Tony to try again.
It must have been me sending it.
He's following. There it is. Twitter from @Tony Kanaan. Watching Speed at home. Wish I was there in Daytona. Maybe next year we'll try again. Tony referring to the fact that he thought he had a handle on a seat for this race, but it fell through at the last minute.
Well, from TK to TK, we miss you.
Absolutely.
Boy, it would have been great to see him in this race.
Yeah, join us next year. Believe it or not, the names Kimi Räikkönen and Rubens Barrichello were bounced around here during the test a few weeks ago here at Daytona. Whoa, more
that
traffic coming.
Ouch! This could be nasty. Too many cars on the same piece of highway.
Can't have too many cars on the same piece of highway. And up on the high banks, always a convenient place to sort things out. Now we'll take that break and return with more. Darkness quickly falling over Daytona International Speedway. The fireworks are still to come, both in the air and on the track.